And then you're pretty much done with your general fund, and then you got your capital, and I think Darryl had a question.
We do capital, and then we gotta do, debt service.
That's positive, but you may wanna reallocate,
I-
look at sales.
I
You
was
need to
gonna-
look
I'm
at the
gonna
schools
look-
revenues.
We gotta
also.
look at that, and then I am gonna make that one motion to allocate the
Yeah, you
one
can just
penny
make
from debt service.
a motion, and we'll go
That's
back
the
and
one
change it
for
later. We'll
the,
have to change it
for
on.
the interchange.
So going back to the accounting chair, I turned the owl back on. We just spent a good, decent conversation amount of time here with talking about the two admins, and that someone with 9 years experience and someone with 0 should be a difference.
The other direction.
Okay, so in hindsight, it should have been the same thing for the county attorney, right? You get
Well,
the
there's a little,
law
and let me
director.
talk about, there's a little difference on some of your professionals, because you're gonna hire department heads and professionals 4 years or 10 years somewhere else, if you're gonna do it the right way. So you gotta think a 30-year person, like, say if I was deciding to go
but
somewhere else, and they offered
specializing-
me the salary of a brand new out of college director versus somebody of 30 years, I wouldn't even look at it. So you're gonna have
There's
that
a
issue.
market component
That's what I'm
to it.
saying.
Yeah, there's a big market.
Well, that's
component.
effectively John's argument too. He's like, I can't get
Yeah.
somebody.
Well,
mine is,
my
I've got
point
somebody in here
my
10
point
years
being
sitting at
is
the
our
market.
our previous law director had a lot of experience
Right.
in that specific area of law or whatever. So,
But is there new ones, was my
Well,
question.
do
And I'm
I-
not involved in this person or.
yeah, and that's the hindsight. I'm just,
I know what you're saying.
again,
Gary.
I didn't internalize until these sessions that their
Their
salaries
the
were
same.
were $1 difference.
Yeah,
There was a few dollars difference on their salary. The only big difference is Eric, when he negotiated his, did not negotiate and tie it to the general session judge. That's the big difference.
Correct.
and there was no, just wanna say that again, there was no material difference between
Their
the
salary.
outgoing and incoming law directors.
Pretty
Say
much.
it again and again and again.
Salaries.
Salary.
It was a
Yeah.
little bit. It wasn't much.
Minimal, material.
It wasn't, but the thing is, that when he negotiated in, honestly, he probably negotiated
And
for
I'm-
less than what.
that's why
Ms.
I
Bennett's
wanted
making,
that to play
because
out.
The cost of living is gonna be less than the general session judge. There's inflation.
cost of living
Yeah, but his salary came
This is
in
a-
at
I'll tell
the
you
exact, relatively exact same amount, right?
It's a.
Right, but he came back in less
It's a
than.
Facebook.
Well, no, what he would be,
Meme that
if
has
Faith
taken
Lee
off.
was still earning her contract, she would be the general sessions judge plus 100 hours. So you'd have to take that general sessions judge salary, what they're making over here, divide by 280 times 100 and add that to the what you're saying.
No, I understand
So
that.
this number would be higher for Ms. Bennett.
So yeah. Going into right now, it would be higher.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the current contract that's in place.
Right, no, there's
I
not
got
much
you.
of a difference at all. There's a small difference.
Yeah, I got you. So, I still think that, the past is past, there's no change in that one. And it goes back, and I don't know what department we were on a second ago, where there was one employee that the department head decided not to give a increase because they were relatively new. Library.
Westmoreland Library.
Yeah. And I don't know, I don't want to just pick and choose, 'cause I don't know, there could be, several hundred, I don't know, employees that are on that same category.
You
So-
could say, because especially when we're preparing budget in March, and we could do it next year, we gotta set in formulas, it's gonna take some time. If the committee wants to look next year, I can set in new formulas and stuff that anybody, for instance, hired after January 1, you could set it to where they got a lower cost of living or none at all. But it's the same thing, I think right now there was some concern from Eric, maybe of disparity of raises, but I don't know.
If they were to get hired in, just in general, if someone was to get hired in,
June, Or May.
let's say June 1st, whatever.
I probably wouldn't give them a raise, but most of your departments would, because I try to keep mine based on the market kind of.
Well, so would the
Tenure
hiring
and-
the hiring salary would be as of June 1st, not previous year July 1.
A lot of them will hire them for whatever the previous person was making. And I try to go by market because I've got a couple of issues, a lot of it's really unique.
Yeah.
One, mine requires a lot of degrees, but number two, several of my employees work in payroll or budgets that see the payroll. So if I don't do something that's rhyme and reason and fair, they know. They're sitting in here, some of them, they're up there running the
Yeah.
payroll. So if I sit over here and gave you, say, how much
Well,
give her
I mean,
a raise
yeah.
because whatever feeling, they're gonna see it. they come and ask me, and I say, well, you know, their performance, but they have a degree or whatever the reasoning, and it's reasonable, it's gonna be okay, but if it's not, I got a disgruntled employee, and I got two choices, you know, live with it or let the employee go, which is neither one a good choice.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
So I think
and
you need
I just,
situation there.
I want to just clarify, I know there's my comments have nothing to do with who's in the spot, it's just as we talked earlier, it's, in general, again, it's extreme, if someone starts June 15th, they're getting some department heads are giving them a cost of living on July 1.
And that's
And
why
I'm
I
not
have
always
that
disagreeing with
problem,
you.
because if you just said you're here a month, and we're looking at, and I'm not picking on the law director, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that, but we're talking about, what, $5,500 between the two, almost $5,500 between the two cost of living between him and the attorney. And you're talking about trying to get someone in here at market value.
Yeah.
That's not hard. I mean, to me, it's not against him, but it just doesn't seem right. To me, it don't feel right. If you agree to a certain amount, whatever that salary amount was,
What's your motion?
I'm gonna make a motion, we take the cost of living off the, and you're gonna hate me for it, but I'm sorry, I mean, but take the cost of living adjustment from the law director and the attorney, because it just doesn't,
Just those two.
well, we're taught, as we're going
Just
down.
those two specifics.
Those two specifics, to me, it don't feel right. If you sign a contract for a set amount, and then you're turning around and you're hitting the taxpayers again it just doesn't feel right to me. That's my personal
All right, well,
feeling.
What about vacant positions right now, then, that's my thought. And I'm here to help you guys do whatever you want. Next year, we could capture these, but there's also in here several vacant positions. That's because
Well, we don't need a motion. for
Well,
that.
but what's your suggestion here?
My suggestion is, I mean, to take these two off, because
The cost of living.
the cost of living, you got other employees here that you're
Or you
trying
could give them
to.
like-
But specifically those
Those
two,
two.
not
So you're saying
their,
someone's has been
Yeah,
there.
can I
not
say
the
something
pair
about
of.
Or you can do a .5.
I hate to say that. I
Are
think.
you gonna,
I have-
go through the budget and do that for everybody?
I have no, except for what
Well, what I'm
I.
talking about, when they signed a contract.
He didn't sign it, he's
Can I-
employed.
Or an
Hold on,
agreement,
hold
whatever.
on. All
I
right,
mean,
one
to
person
me-
at a time. I
Can
know we
can
suspended the rules.
Say one thing?
Go
about
ahead.
it? One thing that you guys haven't seen, and I've been here, and I'm not getting, but Steve came in for
He's not
80
contract.
some, and he's not contract, the other guy's
not
making
contract.
95.9, and.
You just had an agreement to pay
Well,
X
let
number of
David
dollars.
finish. then
Well,
we'll
what I'm
get
saying
back.
is something you
Yeah.
may want to know, and I'm not, Eric can talk about his own, but I want to talk about Steve's, because this is one that I've worked with them, and I know kind of the experience of the two attorneys, and saying nothing negative about the other, because I really liked him too. But Steve, the other was making 95.9, we brought Steve in for 85-ish, okay? 10,000 less Steve, and I've talked to him, he had about 6-7 years of experience running his own firm. The other ones came right out of college, so his is probably already a depressed salary. So he don't have a contract, and just trying to tell you, that one there is probably market or below, just to tell you honestly.
How much
Now, the other
of-
one I'm not
But
How
the
much
law
of
director
Ben-
was.
How much of
Ben
Ben's
Don,
was
You're
because he
You're trying
was,
to take two people and put them in one contract, they're not the same.
No,
how
I'm not
much,
trying to
how much
play
was
with-
Ben's?
You did
Ben's
you
95
both of
dollars.
them when they're not the same.
Here's,
And he only had he had much less experience than me.
Yeah, but he was
It's
getting
not the
paid
same.
a higher
That's
salary
not including that,
for
that's his
Two
interim.
different
That's his
things. You just
rate.
cut them both.
The interim was paid up
He
here.
was paid Leah's salary.
Yeah, up in the law.
Correct,
He wasn't-
okay.
That wasn't included, that's what he
Law
actually
director,
paid.
yes.
so,
Yeah, well, that's, I mean,
That's his rate.
Here-
That was,
here's-
that was his
He's a
position's
different employee.
salary.
He's a
Yes.
here's the argument. On
The
the,
staff attorney's not.
on the one hand, you're saying that, hey, we've got somebody who hasn't been here very long and they deserve a cost of living. The counter argument is, that's happening all throughout the county and other departments, and this is just the one we have a closer eye on.
Yeah.
And so like, that's not fair either.
No.
Yeah.
that's
So
not.
I mean, it's fair, it's a fair point. I
It
mean,
is a
it's
fair
counterpoint
point.
or whatever, yeah.
I mean, I guess what I'm getting at with, take the
But I
staff
mean,
attorney.
we also have a closer eye on, because, everybody else got 15 minutes, and these departments get it, they're sitting here with us.
Yeah.
So you take the staff attorney away from the law director. We voted in the law director as a commission.
That's it.
So my feeling, so let me correct myself then. Let's just go to the law director right now. The commission voted in Eric Sittler. So to me, it's different than someone that's been employed by the
Okay, so
county.
you're suggesting no COLA for him, but COLA for, Steve?
However you guys want to handle that, but
That's what
I
he's-
just.
We do want to, yeah.
Yeah, in principle, to me.
I see what you're saying.
I see, all right, then let's roll.
Because then that does make it, that does draw a distinct
Distinction
difference.
between,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
we're having discussion before a motion. I'll let a motion be made, and then I want to speak to it.
Well, we
why-
haven't been making, we've just been putting these in.
All right, well, then I'll speak to it.
Yeah.
There is a really big distinction here, I think, and our finance director has alluded to it. Number one, we're dealing with a professional person with whom we negotiated a contract, a fair one to the county and a fair one, I think, to the person involved. And maybe even we got a bargain when we got the attorney we've got, because I've been here long enough to observe several different attorneys. The attorney we have now, and this is no reflection on what you're saying, it's just
No,
my
I understand.
opinion, but the attorney that we have now is working beyond my expectations. And I know I've called him at unusual times and difficult times. He's never failed to respond or try to do what he can to answer your questions and so forth. I think we got a bargain, is what I think. The position, what is the position worth? It's not whether we should give him 2% or not 2%, or whether it's been 5 months or whether it's been 6 months. What is that position worth? It's worth every penny of the 2% and what his salary is, if you ask me. I just think you got a bargain. I got a bargain. He is working very, very hard for this county, and I would hope that we, as a professional, we would say to him, yes, you're worth 2% and more, but we're giving you 2%.
I just think we need to set a benchmark. I mean, if we're gonna vote in someone, whether it's a county attorney, there's gotta be, I mean, and I realize we're at where we're at, but it's gotta be, a year's service.
Well, then you're talking about the entire county.
Well, I mean, we
You are.
as a commission voted and
There's
win.
a difference.
We could always set a policy, but that's, I think, a separate thing from this. What you're asking there is a separate thing from this budget. So I don't wanna, this is good discussion, and I really hate trying to stop it, but at some point, we just have to say, what do we wanna do here for the purpose of this? Because we can, folks can come back and, they're gonna get another hearing here, so do we leave it or keep it?
I think the distinction is, just in my opinion, is the law director, the finance director
They're contract employees of the commission.
correct?
All
Is
right.
that?
That's
is
a
that-
distinction.
Then let's do that,
Yeah.
it's a
That's a
logical
difference.
distinction, notwithstanding what Chairman Hyde said, that I may very well agree with, because market dynamics that's two separate arguments we've had about market dynamics, but nevertheless, it's a logical distinction, it's one we can make, so let's do that. Let's remove COLA for the law director, but for no one else in that department,
Yeah.
because that's a contracted
Yeah,
employee.
Makes
there is a distinct difference there.
Yeah.
And we can,
Because the counter argument is true. You can go through now all of a sudden all the people.
That's right.
It just doesn't feel right to me. And
I
maybe
get it,
at the end of the
but-
day, if you think I'm wrong.
well, it's not that you're wrong, it's that there's no way to be, how can we be consistent?
It just,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we still got work to do here.
Copy, a special, that number was there, and get rid of it.
I mean, we can keep it at 0, or we can keep it at half, since it's basically half a year.
But here's
half of
here's
whatever.
another thing that I'm gonna throw into this, since is this the last one we're doing on salaries? Because I wanna say this before we finish up salaries. David, is this the last one we have on salaries?
It is,
I have a
the
question.
last one on salaries, I think yours and and I think you're on the, but nonprofits and non.
I've been not taking, but go ahead.
I mean, I don't have to, I can wait if you don't.
Is
It
it-
directly affects the budget, though. We have interim positions, but we don't have interim line items. Is that gonna affect the budget?
Yeah, we need to go back to EMS.
Well, we do need to do, so we need to look at EMS, and that's a good question. But two, so, all right, let's go back to EMS, but while we're doing that,
Do you want to go to the dynamics of an interim director, kind of what I'm looking at? Because I was asked some questions and I answered it to our commissioner the other day, he had a question, and the question was for the salary of the current interim EMS director. It was signed off on by Greg Miller and the mayor. The way I'm looking at the mayor, as long as he's over the EMS, has the right to sign that off. But you know, as far as what's made under the director salary, any of the interim directors will be paid under interim director by the state chart of accounts, and I have to pay them there. So where you end up the thing, say for instance, the mayor has an interim and it doesn't get appointed, it comes back to the county commission at budget, what you want to pay them through the interim line item. That's kind of the way I look at it right now. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, so here.
That was
so
my answer.
here's-
Right now, the mayor
here's
can pay what's in the line item.
Here's the question.
But then the budget time, you guys determine.
We paid an interim county attorney, and this was Mr. Hyde's argument. We paid the interim county attorney what the county attorney was making, because the argument was they're doing the job.
You guys approved them as interim.
And we,
I think that's the key, we approved it.
well, now that's true too. We
And that's
approved it.
what I was hearing.
So, you know,
And then we've only done that one time.
No, it's not, I made you guys approve an amount for them. The county attorney had nowhere over them, so when you did the resolution, I asked for clarification what it should be.
But it was a request that was approved through committee, through the full commission by
So
resolution.
let me kind of, what I'm looking at, county commission would not have the control of what the employee made within the line item. And as you're talking CTAS, the interims can stay there forever. But I have to pay the director or the interim director through a director line item. You guys as legislators do have control, budgetary control. That's the way I'm looking at it. So whatever you put in the budget is what the interim director or director will make.
Okay.
If that makes sense what I'm saying.
yeah,
That's my view, unless Eric or Steve has a different view, it's something on it.
it's,
But it's been that way for you.
I mean, there are arguments on both sides of this one.
No,
I
Don.
mean, at the end of the day, I don't wanna get into this
You
fight.
guys have budgetary control.
I get it. At the end of the day, I don't want to get into this fight, but we got to figure out who this director is and do this the right way, but that's a separate fight. And this is just about the numbers. And if we want, if we want to try to make this a forcing function, I don't know.
Matt, are we gonna make a decision on the attorney just because someone suggested it, or are we
Well,
gonna say a show
we're
of
putting it,
hands?
well, we're putting it all up and then we're building the entire, we didn't take
I
votes on
understand what you're saying,
it.
but you've changed it on that. Are you building it from that, or are you building it from a suggestion?
I think we're cutting as hard as we can, and then we'll put back what we think we should.
Okay, I've never
So
done it.
right here is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Every number of days changes.
we can't, I mean,
We're just
because I'm
not-
just trying to be consistent here. We didn't take votes on any of these other cuts we made.
Right.
We just.
So it would have been short if you
It's
made
a
it.
little different.
This one was one
A
where
little bit, I think.
also this is the first one where we've really had much dissension, I think.
Yeah, we're playing hit and miss
Which
a little
might
bit.
be more reason
But then
To
also-
take a vote on
to take a
been
suggested
684
vote, not a conclusive vote, but how do you feel about this?
Well,
What
I'm
she said,
against
what she
it.
said. No, we didn't want this to show.
I think you're right.
So
In
this one
all
is-
respect
This
to
is a
Don,
dummy number.
I understand the consistency, but I think he is
I
a
honestly don't care either direction. I'm just trying.
I don't think it's
I'm
enough.
trying
I
to-
think we're sending a message to our attorney that we don't appreciate him,
Yeah,
if you want to know the truth.
well, and I could see where that would
I don't
happen.
like that.
However, he's pretty thick-skinned.
Going from
But-
When I made a point, it's not him, it's just
Well, this is
impossible,
one
whether it's
different.
him or
But you
anybody.
just picked one person out of all the county and just only did it to them. I mean, just understand.
Well, no, I think it should, if we're, as a commission.
But I'm saying you're not being
don't-
We're
consistent.
giving them a zero.
In what
I
you're
don't
asking.
understand
Do you
why we're
think-
Just understand the options.
Well, I know, I understand.
Do you think David Long
I'm about to
shouldn't
have to,
get
like,
in?
shut it down.
So maybe why don't you-
Hey, guys, let's pull
I
back
think
real
there
quick.
needs to be some kind of.
So I've had a suggestion, I know the rules are suspended, and this is, we're getting way into the sausage making.
I mean, 'cause how does that make
I've,
other employees?
hold tight real quick, hold tight. I'm about to bring the rules back, hold tight. We've had a suggestion,
Well, I understand.
because there's clearly, this is the discussion on the county attorney has been the first one of these, I think, where we've had dissent. Where, I think on every other one, I mean, we've been comfortable. There may not have been 100% agreement, but it's been,
Probably be good to have a vote on.
we may want to take a vote on this one.
We've
So,
not singled out a single employee in this entire process. That's what we mean.
well, I mean, you could argue we did with the HR, it wasn't an employee, it was a department, but But I don't know if there was a whole lot of dissent there on that one. I think we did have,
Well, that's
Mr.
not
Harrison, you,
salary discussion, I mean, it's.
but that was a different discussion. That was a discussion of dissolving an office.
And, you know, for the record too, I believe his contract stated, Mr. Sittler, and I'm not, I just want for the record, I'm not zeroing him out, but his contract, if I'm correct, stated that we could give him 0% cost of living. Am I right? Am I right? Is that the way I understand
Yeah,
that?
we can give
more.
Or
whatever.
more, or more,
Correct.
but
So,
it just,
all
there was
right,
no.
We're not
let's-
locked into anything.
Let's do
We have to
this.
decide.
Let's take a vote. And Don, you make, this was, I think you brought this up. You make the motion and let's take a vote on it.
So move.
Well, what is it?
Make the motion that we take off and I think going forward, we need to, as a commission, going forward after today.
Well,
need
let's,
to
we'll just
really-
do
Okay,
one.
for today, I mean, take the cost of living off the county
Cost of living,
attorney.
okay.
Second.
So, and a second. We've had all sorts of discussion on it already. Do we want more discussion?
Can I weigh in? 'Cause I
Yes, you
haven't
may.
said anything. I've been very loath to say anything about this because I made the motion on the floor to reduce his salary from the top of the range to the bottom of the range because he didn't have any experience. And he stood up there this afternoon and made the very statement that he's still learning on the job. So I've been very loath to weigh in, but I do believe I'm in the same boat with Don on this, and I think Jerry, that him having been here 4 months, I could make the argument his raise for this year was built into his contract. And I'm perfectly fine discussing it again next year. If the commission votes to do it, it's fine. It's not a hill I'm gonna die on, but that's where my thought process is. And, you know, I made a request from the law director on April 10th to Chairman Hasbro, and this is, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm sure he's doing a good job, but I still haven't got my information yet, other than just an email saying I'd get to it when I could get to it, basically. So that's kind of where my thought process is.
So let me.
Can I add something
go
to
ahead.
that? The way the contract is written, my strong opinion, that we need to define metrics for that position, because we're going to sit here every year in this to determine 0%, 12%, 100%. We can have, someone say, "Oh, he's doing a great job," and someone saying, "Yeah, otherwise." We need to have metrics to see, to help support, not right now, but ongoing.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
And I'm
because
just,
without those metrics, it's
I agree,
completely
it's arbitrary,
subjective.
but I mean, you can make that argument for a lot.
Well, no, you,
But I mean, I get it,
if the
because we
contract would have been
control that
written like the
contract.
previous one, there's no discussion. So I'm not suggesting one way is better than the other, I'm saying, but the way the current contract is written, there needs to be metrics.
All
So
right.
anyway,
Well, so I'd like to make go ahead. I'm gonna make a motion to amend.
We hired him last year. This is next year. And that's the thing that we need to understand. This is a whole different ballgame from what we did when we initially hired him. So we should not be holding to the contract where we hired him. We should be looking at next year, because that's what this
So
is.
I want to follow up with that, and I'm gonna end with a motion to amend here, and it's super simple. We hired it when, December? This takes place July 1. I would like to make a motion to amend that whatever the cost of living is, it is 1/2.
I mentioned that a few minutes ago, yeah, I'm good with that. Because it is, I think to
So
Mr.
split the
Brown's
So
point.
split the difference,
Well,
because it's half
yeah,
a year.
It's
I mean,
6
yeah.
months. Yeah.
It's
So
half
it
a year.
gives you
So
all,
motion and a
if
second.
you want to say their sides, it gives you guys something, it gives us something.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Yeah,
on
so
that?
if the standard cost, to make sure I understand.
Yep.
If the standard cost of living ends up at 2,
It's gonna be 1.
this would be half of that as well.
That's right.
I'm good with that.
That's fine.
So,
Delete that.
you're
So the-
fine.
the maker
Your
and
maker's
the
good with
second.
it, and the second's good with it. Any other discussion on this?
No.
Let's vote.
Plus.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Plus.
Aye. Any opposed?
Plus.
I'll say no.
Okay, 2 opposed. All right, motion carries.
Okay.
All right, it's 1/2.
We're gonna change the formulas to capture that, do plus that, and then times it by the percentage over there in the salary sheet for the law director's office, and that'll be the 1/2%. in there.
Yeah, I
You
think-
know where we
I
have the
think that's-
percentages by department? You have the COLA percentage, go to the law director, click that and times it by 0.5.
Now, while he's doing that, I wanna make up another thing, we're talking about fairness here. I think by law, the judges go up by 4% a year.
I don't
Well,
know if
the
it's 4 a
judges,
year,
this is the judge's salary. The judges gets the average inflations over 2 years. Since it was really high, there's a cap of 4% on that. So they get 4%. Your elected officials' minimum raise is the average raises of all county employees, including for promotions or whatever, based on the median county. Since we're above the median, so this is just an example. State employees got a 5% raise, which is a cap in there too, but just say 5% raise, then we're gonna get slightly less because that's based on the median county. We're much bigger.
So I'm not saying we didn't change anything now, because I think we need to keep chugging. But my point is, once we get through all this, understand there are some people, and there are people at the higher end of the salary range already who's gonna be getting 4%. So, and there ain't nothing we can do about it.
Times, 2 times.
Talk about if I'm working in the judge's office, and the, person making the most in there is getting 4 and I'm getting 2 or
Okay,
1.
times 0.5 up there.
So, okay. But, doesn't mean we can afford it,
plus?
so let's keep chugging.
See what that is. Yep, you're good, it'll get.
Can we move on from this?
Well, let's keep
Well,
going.
that's one. Go.
We got this. So we're done here. I think we wanted to go to EMS.
Yeah, I think it was.
And so the question was about was about how we define and price out an interim position.
And EMS has also told us they have an extra position, so we're gonna go back and count their positions after this here before we send, if that's okay with the
Yep.
committee. There's an extra position.
There's an extra head count we need to
Well,
look at.
we counted them both, but it's not saying we didn't miss something, because they were supposed to get one, I literally one last year.
They said
didn't.
they had 3 deputy chiefs up there to add, and shown 4 deputy chiefs.
Is the assistant still in there, supposed to be deleted the other year?
No, the assistant's supposed to stay.
The assistant got deleted. That's the one that's supposed to go. He agreed to give that up on the floor for more overtime. Yeah, highlight that.
No,
Oh,
that's.
Jay, what was his name? Sam. Sam's, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah. Highlight that in pink and we'll go back and do these counts and see what happened on that.
Okay.
There was a agreed upon deleted position for extra overtime.
That's what I thought.
That may be, before you guys got here, that may be why there's an extra one, because we do head counts and it could have been missed that way, I
It was
suppose.
the operations chief that went away. We still have that position.
Oh, you thought that down right
There
there?
you go.
We'll go back and do the counts, because it may be that because they deleted him after budget.
So
it may
you're
be
saying they
something.
deleted it and put it back in?
They deleted him and he's still showing.
Well, what happened was,
okay.
we do a comparison between budget to budget. After the budget was set, I think Greg came in and agreed to give up that position for more overtime.
Okay, yeah.
Because he
no, I'm
didn't
tracking.
need
I
the
just-
position.
So that one should be gone.
Should be.
Okay.
And we'll
Permanently.
go back and
Got
go
it.
to count and verify.
That's big. That'll probably just about get us there.
By
Yeah.
title, I don't know what the budget is, but.
Pop,
Oh, no.
pop the thing, see if that says vacant on it too, make sure we look at the right position, 866.
No, we don't.
There's the vacancy down here.
Should there be a slot?
Could it be this one right here, because these two are vacant?
Is it gonna get filled? Because they're giving it up, it's
No,
part
see,
time.
read the
No,
titles.
so we get rid of the whole thing. That almost gets us there.
What Paul said yesterday.
So these two are vacant, but he's saying one of these should be here.
100.
Well, they may have renamed them.
We'll talk to him if something's,
Because that would just about get us where we need to be.
yeah, that, and you probably want to look at the nonprofits.
Well, no, we're still gonna do that, but I'm
Because
just,
the percentages and just
So-
make sure where you're gonna be.
check on that one and then let's go to nonprofits.
So,
And then probably want to skim your operations.
So what
What do
we,
you put your director?
what we,
interim director?
what we think happened is, oh yeah, we still need to address that, sorry.
So-
What we think just happened is that line item, that deputy chief was supposed to go away and instead get, part-time. And so that position should be gone.
Yeah,
We
overtime.
think,
okay.
or sorry, overtime.
We're gonna verify, because we do head counts, and we physically count them, but if they did it during the year, we could have missed a change like that. We usually catch them, but I mean.
No,
it's
let's-
possible.
And that's
We'll verify that.
That's
$120,000.
the HR department.
I was gonna say, this is, but
They could figure that out.
yeah, that's,
Well, we're
we're
getting rid of
doing a
it.
lot of but it's not.
We do-
So
we
who,
do-
who would do that in the future?
We do payroll by position in finance. In other words, everybody based on their number of budgeted positions is in the payroll system. So if you come up with an extra employee, we will tell you, the problem we've got is kind of like what happened with the assessor. They go ahead and hire an employee and they send them to us, so what do? That's why we ended up with him, and it didn't run his budget over because he didn't need health insurance, that's what I was telling you.
Yeah.
But we
But
had
we
the
do
issue with
monitor
the
those.
highway department, we ended up with two
Budgeted-
additional
but-
headcount.
Budgeted to, because what happened was, he came in, and he was talking to Matt, and he was talking about the number of vacancies he hired, well, we're like, Toby,
It's-
you've
it's
got
fine.
this many
That's a different
units,
topic.
and you got this many
Let's-
empty, not that
Yeah,
many.
that's a different topic, but something that we
It's-
desperately need to
it's-
address.
It's a systemic
Something
problem,
needs to be.
but we gotta solve
Well,
this.
we found and detected it,
Yeah.
but the problem is they don't track them as good as we do.
So let's continue to chug here. We got one more thing to do, and that is the,
Keep on going past
the interim.
Yes.
The interim on EMS, and what do we wanna do with that?
We
And
don't-
then we get
is
into
this not practice?
nonprofits.
Which direction is this linked, Beth, in the budget or the other direction?
What's a quick summary on the
The
interim?
interim
The summary is
is,
it linked from the
do we
summary to
pay at
budget?
we have an interim chief? Do we pay at the interim level, or do we pay at something, or excuse me, do we pay at the chief level, or do we pay at something less than the chief level? And there's two counter arguments here. I'm just saying this for everybody. On the one argument is you pay at the chief, at the chief level because they're operating in that position. The counter argument is, well, when we've done that in one case in the past, and that was for the interim law director, and that was because that was approved here for a direct oversight contract position. This is different, because this has not been approved. It's just, we're kind of in this limbo while we figure out who the actual director's gonna be.
Well, and the problem is that indefinitely there could be an interim chief. And it's by appointment, but also by confirmation by the county legislative body. But the problem is, it's like it could be interim director for 8 years. Technically.
Here's what I think.
Indefinitely.
Here's what I think we
without-
need to do. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Without ever coming to the county legislative body. And so it's kind of like,
Here's what I think we need to do. I mean, honestly.
Internally, they can do.
Can we just do this? Keep it where, don't change the interim pay. And let's just have a vote on this. Can we just put it on legislative to have an interim vote, or EMS to have a vote to approve or
they're
not
already
approve
doing that
this?
in EMS.
So then we just don't pay him at that level, and then whatever's
Just
gonna be,
wait.
what's gonna be.
See, the thing is, you only have budgetary control, that's my point, is if he's the interim director, then he gives us the salaries for his people within the budget, and his supervisor is the mayor, so really legislative only comes back to a couple of functions, budgetary, legislations, resolutions. What you're saying there kind of, and Eric or Steve can say, well, I
Wouldn't be
think it
legislative.
actually
Yeah,
moves
be
outside
EMS
of your
and then
purview
budget.
there, that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong, but tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that would actually move outside the legislative purview.
Sure.
Which is what now?
Telling them to, basically if they told the director or the county mayor on the interim, they had to pay them an amount less than the budgeted for the director.
Not dealing with.
Unless you created a separate
Okay,
line
for
item.
Well, the line's called
Gotcha.
director, we get paid
That's
director.
what I'm
on
saying,
Yeah, I
unless
see
you
what
created
you're
a
saying.
new line item,
I
as
agree.
an interim position
I
that's
agree.
only filled,
We
I agree.
can't do that, it's the state chart of accounts, so he go into
then
director.
yes, you're stuck with one of the two line items.
So you're really stuck with, they have available whatever's in the director's line item, or you decrease the director's line item, that's really where you're standing. And I'm just being honest, I'm not trying to get in either direction, but that's my opinion of where kind of the purview would stop.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's
So-
a director? Are you talking about chief?
The chief, the
Oh,
interim
chief.
director, same
Okay,
thing.
chief.
Because there's a director line item, we have to follow the state chart of accounts, whatever you budget in there for an interim director, that's the line I'm gonna pay for. Statutorily, you're required to stay within that line item. That's where all the controls come in, but as far as telling
I see.
the mayor and or the chief that they have to pay them out less, I think that goes past the purview, and we're gonna end up with issues.
Go ahead, Jerry. Oh, sorry.
Is the chief, what is the chief's salary?
It's right there.
Right there.
Okay, so 122, so he's getting paid the chief's salary.
What the
right now.
former, and we can give you the market data if you want it.
No, I'm fine with that. I was just trying to understand if he was making what Miller was making or if he's making.
He got paid the same.
Okay.
Jerry.
So question, and my brain's not thinking at all right now, but, who is there an interim director right now that's an internal person?
Hoss.
Okay, so the internal person is one of these next, 8 line items?
He used to be, we're paying his director because if, my opinion is he's an interim director, we should be paying by the director line item. So possibly being paid out of that line item.
Well, I mean, another thing, well, I don't know how we enforce it, but we just pay him at his
Previous.
his role.
And that's what I'm saying, you've only got one or two choices really, that you can't, in my opinion, they want to tell you, that you can't direct the mayor or POS really directly to pay an amount lower than that line item. Your only real choice is to decrease the line item to what you want to pay. If that's what you're saying, then you have to decrease the line item.
I think the difference, we may have to ask the attorney's opinion, but I wouldn't want to deal with an individual situation.
Right.
That's always a bad thing to do. You should look at it globally. And I would think that you would be on good legal standing if we said, okay, and maybe have legislative to look at it as a countywide policy. An interim director will make some percentage less than a regular appointed person, or you could, whether it's this position or any other position, you could go without a regular person, a stability in a county office, unless you had a name presented to you to make a decision on. So I would think that if legislative passed a countywide resolution that any office that a person in an interim will make X amount of money, that would be legal.
That's rational.
I think the only way to do it, and this is what I think, if you adopt that policy, the only way to enforce it is when the budget changes, if the appointment and salary is not determined, that the budget committee comes in and takes that salary to 75% of what
Well,
was
could
done.
we add a line item of an interim director line
This is
item?
what you've got to, what the statute says, that I'll create a chart of accounts in conjunction with the state, which has a state chart of accounts by law. It has director and certain things. It doesn't have an interim director, and I'll go with it. So my opinion is when you become interim director, you get paid out of the director line item.
No, I know what you're saying. What I'm saying is, I get that argument.
So basically through budgetary controls, you would decrease that line item.
Well, no, I understand that, but is there any reason why, what I'm arguing here is, so Mr. Wright is arguing for making the global, because I like what you said, I 100% agree with. We don't want to be monkeying around with stuff just for an individual circumstance, make a global policy. But what you're saying is that, like, how do you
Here's your
affect
logistical
that?
problems. Here's your logistical problems. We're supposed to pay for director. If you come and say, hey, interim, we're gonna make an opinion that they're not an interim director, shouldn't be out of director, and we all agree with it, okay? No, it may be a weak argument, but the problem is you've got multiple line items down here. You come by and you pay him here, he can pay the same amount by just decreasing the others or whatever. The two controls you've got is, one, it's the state chart of account director. Your argument is it should be paid out of director. Number two, there's only one salary in there. That's the only way you've got to control, because of the state chart of accounts tells you pretty much where to pay them, and then you have budgetary control.
But, you know, that we don't want to go, what we don't want to do, I think, Mr. Wright, this is what you're saying, which I agree with, we don't want to take that down to some degree, and then as soon as it becomes a director position, take it up, and, you know, that seems.
I don't see another one where you really have that kind of control other than through the budgetary process.
David, is there a process where these line items can be changed through the state? Is there like a mechanism where that can be done, you know?
The state comptroller determines it through the state chart of accounts. So we have a chart of accounts with extra information, but it's determined the state wants the really legal chart. And that director line's a legal chart number. There's not an interim metric.
I'm just trying to say, that's just.
Applies to you.
That's not the same, because it's not the state chart, so then I have an argument worse. So what happens when they?
Go ahead, David, then we got to march. David, one more question, and then.
Well, I'm just going from the logistics I understand.
I get it.
Mr. Mayor, when you put Mr. Poss in as interim, did you bring up another assistant chief?
No.
There's nobody
No, all
filling
that's
that?
done internally.
Or is there one? Is there an assistant chief now?
Oh, yes, there is an assistant chief. He was already in place.
Jay Austin.
Yeah, Jay Austin's the assistant.
Oh,
chief.
so Poss was not the assistant chief, Austin
No,
was.
Jay Austin did not want the interim.
I think Jay's fairly close to retirement, is what he told me a while back.
So what was
He wasn't Italian.
Italian cheese.
So,
A little money.
look, I don't know that we're gonna be able to, it sounds to me like we're not gonna really be able to address this now so I would suggest here, unless we wanna take a vote on it, if you can make a motion, we can take a vote on it. If you wanna vote, because the only mechanism we have is to reduce this by some amount. If you wanna make that motion, we could.
I think that's, in the thought process, think about it this way. There's a couple, if you reduce it by 75% and they had to stay in there, then it's gonna decrease the pay by 75%. But if you decrease it by 75% within the intention, once the appointment happens, you add the other 25 back, then you would have to adjust the budget, but you kind of make your tent known. But the same thing, I think your real control comes in two things. That statute about the state chart of accounts, and the argument is that interim director should be paid there, gives you the power. Because it has to be coded there, number two, you have budgetary control. That's the only two that I think you can make that actual policy stick. I don't know of any other statutes. They can research, I may be missing something, but I'm not aware.
So here's the thing, do we wanna make a motion on this one? This is another one where there's some dissent. Do we wanna vote on it, or do we wanna just let this one, I think this was yours? Do we wanna just keep to mush?
It's just,
Yeah, I guess you brought it up, but you're not on the committee, so is there anybody who wants to make a motion on this, or do you wanna continue and move on into, nonprofits? We still got some.
Let's move on.
You can still adjust during your hearings too.
Let's move on. We got
I
money.
did have a question about personnel on, I had a commissioner ask me this, to bring this up for, the grant writer position was in finance, moved to county mayor, moved to development services, which is kind of a weird place to end up. Why can't that just come back to the finance department since we're dealing with grants and money? I mean, it makes sense to come back under finance.
It's really up to the county commission what they want to do. I mean, it's fine, we'll do.
I know, it
whatever
was
you
kind
got.
of like, and it was an awkward fit in the planning department, talking to the planning directors, like, versus, it's like this position deals with money. It seems to me like it would go under finance where it originally came from. And it's been moved around weirdly, and we're kind of, seems like we're bringing things back into balance to where things really were, and that made more sense logically. I'm just, that was one thing that commissioner brought up to me, wanted me to ask, and so I'm just.
He did say yesterday that,
It would be
Mr. Sutter, that it actually fits in nicely. It's what he said. Whether or not
Moving her to finance.
moving, no, in his department, yeah. When he was showing his org chart, he described it and he said actually.
Previously, it was.
Is there any, do we need to, because that's not
If
gonna
you
change.
wanna-
You gotta do it in the line item.
Oh.
No, you do. Yes.
Yeah, no.
It's a
I'm
budget.
wrong,
I'm asking
because
the question.
you're right. Yeah,
It's
no,
a
that's
net
why I'm talking about it
zero.
now. Yeah, I get it.
If it's a
Net
net
zero,
zero, you
but
just
yeah.
tell us to make.
Correct, it's just moved, because it's moved, but it's like, to me, it makes sense to be under the finance department, because that's where it came from originally. We're just coming back full circle. It just
So
seemed-
did the county commission decide to move it in the first place?
Mayor Holt requested it. Because originally the position was for finance grant and for grant writing, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in from, we had the school consolidation that was going on, so Mr. Holt was using the position a lot more for like, grant writing and positions and recruiting grants. And we were using it some for financial. He decided it'd probably be easier just to leave it more in grant writing. Well, after that, during one of the budget processes, Mr. Tigna's position was, because he was kind of the, I guess, the project manager, which he was doing some work, and that was all put back under the same position. So kind of the position went from financial and grant to grant and all these, I don't know, dozens and dozens of projects right now. But we're willing to do whatever you guys think works best, and we can make it work.
I was asked by.
If you think it works
bring
better,
up,
we'll be
and
happy to do it.
I'm gonna request that it goes back there, back full circle, so that's mine.
I don't have a hard opinion.
Kim, do you have an opinion?
Because she does a lot of project management.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask her.
Yeah.
Happy where I'm at, so I think it's working well, because I worked with the county engineer on projects, so I think it's a good fit.
Does a lot of work with the county engineer. They're right next to each other.
Yeah, I mean, and Mr. Sutter, I mean, he did say, like, I was going to ask, and then he said it during his presentation, so I didn't ask. So,
Is there anything gained by?
Well, initially, we needed somebody to help us with the grants and to keep up and for the.
Is there any reason you couldn't do that?
Never, well, this is the issue we got. It's a whole bunch of stuff that would be much better if they were in projects and stuff, but the issue we got is Kim over here is looking for grants, doing the grants and sending them to us, but she's also doing all this project management. So right now, because of all the changes in the jobs, it's no longer even able to help us with grants. Originally, one of the main reasons it came in was in 8, 9, the same issue we've got is it's hard to keep up with the grants.
Who does
And
it?
audit
Who's
recommendations.
doing the grants now?
She sends us the stuff and we scan them in and stuff,
Well, I mean,
it would be better if we put them in a project.
Because to me, the
manager.
truth of the matter is that this sounds like, and I'm not one to grow, but this sounds like you've got a project management job that's a full-time job
And we need a
that used to be
grant
50-50, and it's not now.
And we need a grant person really too, to do the
So,
board,
like,
but she don't have time to do both. And that's kind of what we're at, just like at the last audit. I had, members of my staff digging out a lot of grant stuff and calling grant people and hunting them and for a long time, and grant documents, the audit was okay with it because we found everything, but it's not the best fit. But originally that was one of the functions, but
I mean, if we-
because of lack of
I mean,
resources.
I'm not.
I'm just bringing it up because.
The reality, she's doing what,
Yeah.
that was
I mean,
taken
make
off
a
of her
motion,
somewhat?
All right,
Because
Vote up or down.
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to transfer that back under finance.
All right, I'll second it, just, I don't know.
I
that
mean,
I'm
I've already
for it.
stated that, I've just, Mr. Southern said what he said, Kim said what she said, but let's
All
just
right,
vote.
any further discussion on this? All right, and just to state, the motion is to move,
The grant writing.
the grant
position
writing back
under
to
the
finance.
department.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion passes, or motion fails.
$1 million.
We're gonna stay status quo. All right.
Can we go through these real quickly?
Yes.
Yes.
2 fire departments are asking for $2 more thousand than the
That was
rest.
gonna
He didn't
20
mean to.
He didn't mean to, that was
Okay,
gonna
so
be
we change
24,000.
those. Does that change it here in the budget?
Yep, 24,000.
You need to change the budget, not here to the other direction. That's what I was saying, let's go over there and hit, we'll do all the nonprofits. Change those two, okay? The question is on the one that used to pay us for the rental. We, as you guys discovered today, they are paying rent.
I know my computer's.
Can we go up to that one there where the rental's at?
This rent.
The one that's doing the rent, we should pay for the rent. It's up there, it's under state appropriations. It's not what the other one's on. State appropriations.
No, it's progression.
Progression.
That's the way it's labeled.
That's what the state calls it.
Oh, you missed it, though, you missed this. We signed ourselves up for $120,000, $130,000.
The TRC director.
There it is. Okay. First, this is one that was never discussed. This is money given to the health department each year that they send to the state.
Yeah, this
And
is
it's
it
time to
right
request
here.
back. But this is the one down here.
Storage.
They used to pay that back to us as lease. The revenues are gone because they don't lease the building, but they have to lease the building now. So it's not quite what everybody thought in the past either. They were in the building somewhere else.
So, I mean.
No, it was a zero. So let me make sure I understand. The 75% is 119 75% of the 158 or whatever that is?
Yes.
Okay. So what did they do? What did they do to make up the difference this year?
They were supposed to stop paying in March.
Yeah,
Of
they-
this
They only-
year?
mhm. Yeah, it actually.
Okay,
They're
but-
leasing in
but-
March.
then.
Yeah.
But I didn't ask
We got
what
leasing.
they're doing, how they're paying for their new place.
They said they were renting it somewhere. They didn't tell us how much.
We don't know how they're renting. And you didn't have an answer to my question.
What my recollection is, and I could be wrong, the discussion at the budget committee meeting was that they no longer was renting the building, and my understanding was they didn't want to, but I could have been mistaken. So this year we were in, this year we're in right now, they cut 25% off because they were only leasing the building from us for 75% of the year, and the understanding was it probably all going by this year. But I think there was some discussion that the understanding was they no longer had to pay the rent.
Well, but
They were going to state building,
Jerry's
but I don't know
point
if that's
is,
true.
Jerry's point is that the reason this was getting paid for before was because
We got
they
it all
needed
back.
that money, well, from their point of view is, they needed that money for the rent.
And they
And
paid-
how much are
And
they
they
paying
paid
for
us.
rent now?
We don't
So
know.
like, since we don't know that, I mean, how can we make a call here? I'd say we zero that out and then let them come back to us with the rent amount.
You want us to
I mean-
take it out and then send them an email and ask them how much?
I mean, but
The
because,
problem is we weren't paying anything and now we're
Well,
stuck with this.
right.
because of a
yeah,
bad agreement.
so, Mark, just because you weren't here.
Right.
So we basically we gave them $158,000 and they turned around and gave us.
189.
108, I'm sorry, 189. They gave us the exact amount
Plus.
for the rent or whatever it
It's at
was.
least the building that we've improved a
Yeah,
couple years
so
over.
now
We're in the hole.
they're out of the TRC building and.
We're funding them, before we weren't funding.
Yeah, so now we're.
We were giving them free rent before,
You
now.
you had a lease revenue, no, they paid
And that was
$198,000 or
counting
90.
Yeah.
We had a lease
Ball State
revenue
was
that's
counting
gone
that.
now,
And what was
And
their
then we
match?
stopped paying
Tennessee was counting.
unless you wanna get rid of the expense. And then the issue was everybody thought that they were wanting to leave, now it sounds like they may have been kicked out, I don't know.
No, but they're
And what
going somewhere.
was
I've got a
their,
suggestion.
what was their
Money
match,
from-
federal match?
I think it's $75,000.
So that, yeah, 75%.
Mr. Hyde could guess where I'm going.
And that's the problem is, I say problem, that's what we don't know.
That's right.
Because if we truly give them zero, and then that means the Fed match zero, then they're at zero. And then what is that? I
They
mean,
may collectively be shut down.
yeah, and so, you know, I don't think any of us want
One way to
that
find
happen. But that is what I said.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing, I mean, I was kinda using that as a forcing function to get them to come back here and give us but we could put
The
50,000.
TRC building wasn't free, is the kind of the whole thing, you guys lost all those.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem here,
In
right? I
addition,
mean,
the utilities pay over there.
I can find $100,000.
let's
Do
put,
you think that needs to be moved to charitable, organizations?
And that's-
I mean, we don't have any,
No employees, we don't,
no employees, no connection in any way, no
we're
lease.
trying to figure out why we're paying.
You know, it'd be a matter each year how much we need to give
this whole
or
thing,
should
yeah,
give.
it's bizarre.
I think they run through the state, so that's why we paid out appropriation to state. I think they get federal money and donations like from the county, but I think they're actually goes back through the state, just like the guy said his check comes.
But that
from the state.
119 is not, that's county money.
No,
That's
it's
not,
Going to the state, that's what I'm saying, and the state pays him.
I know, but that's not state money, that
It's an
119.
appropriation to them, is what it's saying. yeah.
But it's not state money, it's county money that's just, it's county money that's leaving the county now.
Well, that's the
Whereas
same thing,
before,
right.
we didn't have that money leaving.
Oh, I know what you're saying. We used to get lease revenue back.
And when but it goes to the different charitable organizations, the idea, and Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, the idea between the two groupings was that these ones are ones that the county would really have to provide those services or those needs
No, we don't
if they
have
didn't
to.
exist. No, that,
Maybe like Ashley's place,
Yeah,
but
it-
not
yeah.
the rest of them.
So this one, again, where does that fall? Does it fall here? Does it need to move over to the other one?
See, I think it and Mills and Wells is probably kind of questionable why they're not over in the other one.
Well, that I thought that same question a
I
couple
think the
different times
reason that
today.
Meals on Wheels wasn't is because the dues were already paid under the
Right,
Civic.
but the dudes are
And
totally
so,
different.
yeah, they were.
So the question is, should the 15 for Meals on Wheels and this be moved over to charitable, and you look at the maybe larger amount of charitable for the same?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fair
I,
question.
you know, me, I'm a numbers guy and I'd like to quantify everything. So 30% came from local, 70% is a match. They do 20 to 30 people per year. That works out to 4,000 to 6,000 dollars per disabled person, and they had no records of how much success they had. So, as much as I'm compassionate and want to help people who are disabled mentally or physically, I think we have to consider, you know, whether an average of $5,000 per person with an unknown amount of people who maintain a job for 90 days, which is what he said.
Well, let's just back this up a little bit. We wouldn't be in this situation had the previous county mayor and the election commission gone and done something in a back room without any public notice or the commission's authority or an oversight of this for control and direction per statute in order to allocate and maintain where departments go in the county buildings. So that's really the root problem is, and so it's like it's an unfortunate trickle-down effect.
There's a lot of
and
things we're
negative
fixing.
consequences. This is just a casualty of that before it was actually a revenue producer.
Listen,
It was-
I'm
This is how
gonna be
screwed up
way
this
more
is.
harsh about this if we're gonna, because we're stuck, like, this, the ARPA funds, I mean, I could go on and on beyond, like, on and on and on. We are taking a sandwich and trying to unscrew it as much as we can. And you're 100% right, but we can't, unless we're gonna move these people back in, which I don't think we're gonna do, we gotta figure out how to you're 100% right, and this isn't even the worst one. The ARPA stuff is the one that's just
Somebody asked
killing
them if
me.
they could move back in, because they said they were hunting a space, but I think they've already moved.
So, look, at some point, we gotta figure out, we gotta set a number in there, and we gotta, what's that number gonna be? I mean, is it gonna
I
be
think they've
0,
already
50?
moved. I don't know.
Well, then
And
let's let them come back.
I just, I didn't catch those numbers.
He said he
They
didn't
say
need
you
as
just
much
jotted them
space,
down.
When he was talking, it
He
was
was-
30%
David asked
county,
that
70% federal.
Yeah, yeah,
I
and
thought it was
and with
75,
what
okay.
we contribute,
Yeah.
have nothing to do with the rentals. What we contribute,
Yeah, that's what I'm
it worked out to $4,000 to $6,000 per person.
Let's do this. We're not gonna solve
Okay.
it. Let's put a number in here. Let's put 50,000 in here. And tell them to come back.
Well, we put 100?
So they said they didn't need as much space, so how much will their lease be?
Yeah, that's a good,
He said they didn't need that big building. That's a 17,000 square foot
They were
building.
using the classrooms, but what I kind of read between the lines, they were using all those bays and stuff.
Well, apparently we
Yeah.
did an addition to it, or we upgraded it. It's
Renovated.
probably that 6,000 feet in the back that,
We renovated the building for them right before this last lease because they wanted it renovated before we did this last lease and they gave us a bigger lease. And I forget what we spent, I could go back and look, it wasn't a lot of money. So we actually renovated this building for the lease and then the lease got canceled later, which cost us money, so. But that wasn't what my
they're
understanding
dependent
was.
upon
That
that
wasn't their
70% federal.
Then they'll come back.
So let's go to the other nonprofits,
I mean,
just give them that.
Okay, yeah, let's leave it there for now. It's,
yeah, we could always change it.
Oh, then there's a lot of pink questions here, like the airport, they have a reserve for hospital money that was donated, but we put nothing in there, they've contacted me about a grant, but I think probably the best thing is to leave it as is and let them send down a budget request during the year. But that was my question, do you wanna try to get them to get it in here now? They sent me an email earlier and then I sent you the,
That was Portland.
was that Portland?
Portland's the one that has the.
Sorry, we marked the wrong one.
Yeah, it's Portland
What, we
Airport.
got the wrong line marked, yeah, I'm talking about Portland. It's just the wrong one's pink. But Portland, do you want me to go ahead and find out what the amount is and try to get it in here, or just wait to let them ask for an amendment? They sent me the email, I put in the budget packet, and it had $1,095, but it talked about.
Yeah, I mean, the
the
thing is that we're still trying to get under a particular number and not knowing that is.
That's from restricted money. No,
Oh, okay.
Or it's not restricted, it's committed from the commission earlier for this purpose. It wouldn't have-
no,
That's fine.
I would say just,
Just make it legal.
Let it ride.
The other one is the adult education program. Nobody's, and it may be something Mr. Isabel wants to look at, nobody's made a request for the funds, and every year it's moved around all over the place, so we're not 100% sure who's even doing it anymore. It's
Then
been
don't.
the Vol State all the way over
Then
to
don't do it.
Workforce
Zero it
Essentials.
up.
What's that?
We wanna zero it up? What are we doing with it? We just keep it there.
You just wanna leave it right
If they
now?
didn't, if they didn't ask for anything,
They haven't asked us for
Yeah,
it.
but they never really do.
Right.
Um,
Usually it's the mayor's office that contacts them, and I don't, and then when I say we switched Mayor John, didn't know anything about it, so that's my question.
Yeah,
It may have been one of those things that nobody left anything.
I mean-
for us to know
I
about.
didn't ask for it. Nobody contacted me. No, I
It's been
don't-
the
I
Vol
don't
State,
go out trying to
Workforce
get money.
Essentials, all over the place.
So how, this gets spent every year or it doesn't?
I mean,
Should
zero
say-
it out. I think
Yeah.
we got,
yeah.
Get rid of
look,
it.
we're being harsh, and we've got
Yeah.
If they're not asking, why are we giving it?
zero it out.
Yeah, but
Zero
they'll
it.
probably
yeah,
ask
they
later on.
Then
in
they
the year.
can.
That's fine, they can come back in a
Come
year.
back.
yeah.
Then come back
a
next-
nonprofit.
You didn't request.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I don't.
So let's make
I
that one,
remember.
and get that off of our.
I can't
So,
remember that
here-
before we split that off.
Here's the thing I would like
I don't
to contemplate doing with all the ones that got requested for additions, is just move them back to exactly what we did last year, to start with.
Yeah,
And then
I-
some of them we may reduce.
What about the Mid-Cumberland dues? They are based on your census. We've always paid them, that's kind of how we've become part of them, but we're not part of them.
I mean, that's fine. We can keep that keep everything like this at maintenance of effort.
What
Now,
about-
forward Sumner, we don't wanna talk about.
So what about like the
Enter.
Meals on Wheels? Do we wanna, they were asking for 2,500 more?
1,500. They asked for 12,000 more, I think. 10,000 more.
I
The
mean, we
question
can,
is, should that actually be moved over to charitable? I really
I-
find it hard to put this.
I would, well, for this purpose, I would say leave them as previous year, and then we can, if they want any more, they
Then they have to
can,
go
we
in
can
and
shift
shift
them into the,
I'm fine with that, but
And if
I
they shoot
mean,
the charitable, we can do it next year.
yeah.
instead of 10, let's do 5,000 extra on that one, because they have good rationale for it.
Yeah, I was trying to, I mean,
That's fair. Now for Ford Sumner,
Ford Sumner's over there and
no, we're not, it's.
oh, we're not, thought that.
That's
never
an
mind.
industrial.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
just the
never
100,000
mind.
for the non.
That's for the non, that's,
And that was something that was added a couple
yeah.
years back.
Are we gonna keep that where it's at this year?
Well, I mean, if we're going to, if the idea is to move a couple of these other ones into this bucket, then we need to me, we need to shift the money with it
Well, we
too.
would shift it.
Did you left the 10 up there right now for, you actually increased 5 on the.
Yeah, but we were also talking about the
The
rehab center and,
so there's only $100,000 in that.
But you've left the 50 in the rehab right now too, so I think it's kind of up there right now.
say that again.
Right now, you've left the 50.
Oh, yeah, the 50 in there. That's what I'm saying. If you're gonna leave that separate, then you leave this at 100. But, I think on the, like the wheels on, meals on wheels. Blah, blah, blah.
We're getting.
Yeah,
punchy.
that one's, if they wanna, if we're gonna push them over in the other one,
So do we wanna just change?
maybe we just bump that up to like 110,
110? And
something
zero
like
it
that.
there?
Well, we could do
Because-
that.
Because I mean, you'd have to, because it's the same year, right?
Yeah.
And I understand the problem you're getting at.
Yeah, well, we do that,
But you do
we
that
do
kind
that
of
in
off cycle.
October, for basically to get it in January through
Why don't
June.
you think about, since you're doing it in July, August, since you're talking 25% of the year, why don't you put 2,500 here and 7,500 down there and let them come back to you? That way, if they
That
do
works.
need the money to provide meals until
That
October,
works.
or maybe even half, that way they can provide at least till October.
Yeah.
Because you gotta think they're actually providing meals to elderly, and you guys are giving them the 5.
So put 5,000 there and change the bottom to 105,
Yeah, there you go.
They give them time
5 and
to
5.
respond.
and then change
And then
that
just keep
10,000.
That 10 is now 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
Then we email and tell them that they're also now potentially charitable.
All right.
yeah.
Now,
Let's keep going.
I go to Ford Summer Economic Development, and then you've also got tourism.
Yep, those two are big ones. Now here's tour, which one's coming first here?
The
Tourism has an ROI. It just clearly does, looking at those patterns. I'm kind of loath to cut that one.
Why was the request for 21,500?
I mean, we could just put them at,
It's 3%, they asked for a 3% increase.
Okay,
we'll put that at 1.
put that at, well, you're doing 2 for
Or
that.
2, I guess it would be 2.
It's really impossible to quantify. I
It
mean,
is, but you do
I-
see when that
Yeah,
director moves, like, I mean, I get it, it's a little bit of fuzzy math,
I
but
need to
like,
start out at 2%, not 3%, that's what I said.
it's a lot better quantified than a lot deferred that we.
Yeah, no,
that we've seen.
We have some, a tourism board, maybe 2 tourism board members here. What is the percentage that we can draw from that? There is a certain percentage we can take from that.
You can take everything except for
350,000.
So you just gotta give them 350 is all you're required to give them. Anything after that's up to the county's discretion, and then in your budget doc each year, if you look at the verbiage, it says that the hotel motel tax rate will be 5% because the resolution says the county commission shall determine the rate each year. So it's actually noted in your budget what your rate is.
How much did they end with last year?
Right now, I'm estimating they're gonna bring in about 1.2 million. And probably next year I put 1.2 million, that's why I had all the questions. Because we've got more hotels, but a question on the economy, that's why I had all the questions if the new director was gonna be.
This is just the business side of me that says, when you have something that's making money, you don't cut the people that are making money. Like, I do realize there's a counter argument that, like, would that money have been made otherwise? I don't know, but
They did pick up the bed and breakfast, that did help them this year in the new hotels, so.
So is the 738, is that 3%? Is that,
yeah.
Can we move that to 2%?
Well into
We
the
need to make
spring
it,
and summer, so, I mean, it's.
and you're talking about 2% from like a equal to salaries?
I mean, that's what that is, right?
Well, I don't know what that, I don't, surely that's,
2% of operations.
2%.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure they're hurting on salaries and.
I mean, there's tangible stuff, advertising, setting up,
yeah,
events.
You actually have a board member back there that can tell you
Yeah.
a whole bunch about it.
I'm telling you.
What do you want me to tell you? I told them, they asked me, G. Montgomery specifically asked me, begged me, that we would not, butcher their budget. Not reduce their budget because they brought in she says $1.3 million, so they're a net profit to the county. And I did speak to the budget chairman and the mayor. We three were talking one night and relayed that to them. I will be frank, I have qualms with the new director choice. I don't know how that will work out. I was not at the meeting for the vote, but it wouldn't have mattered because I have been in the minority anyway. There was not what I would consider a competitive look at the director. We interviewed one, we chose one. So, I would say, David, when you talk about the director, when directors change, there could be a dip, there may be, but my overarching issue is that what is the economy gonna do to travel? So I can't speak, I would like to see tourism left alone.
Well, here's kind of what, in 2021, they brought in $1,396,755. This year, I'm estimating 1.2 million, because I don't know what's gonna happen the rest of the year without a director. Next year, I estimated 1.2 million. A solution for this concern may be when you write your resolution for appropriation, whatever percentage that is of 1.2 million, that they get whatever percent amount you put there, but not to exceed this percentage of revenue.
Well, I actually kind of like
If they
the
don't
idea.
earn their revenues like you're saying, those two numbers move
Times
together,
revenue.
and if revenues shrink, they shrink. It kind of puts them, if you don't bring in the revenues, you don't get it.
I like
That may be a
idea.
solution.
I like that idea.
So basically, like, if we take it, the 2% you're saying, we divide that by my revenue calculation, and your appropriation says they're to receive up to 1.2 that's in your budget. However, if that exceeds this percent of the revenue, they will not receive it, it goes down.
Yeah, it's almost like a guarantee.
And then we'll take it out of their third quarter if they don't. That's-
How is that revenue calculated, though? You have no idea how many hotel rooms.
No.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's as arbitrary
It
as
is,
it can
well,
get.
that's the thing, like, how can you tell necessarily that
But I budgeted it down.
Yeah, well,
And they picked up all this bed
Well,
and breakfast
but
the other year, so it shouldn't be going down.
Are they the ones driving?
I see your.
Shannon, did you hear the explanation that he made of that? Because my thinking is this, and it may not be in agreement with yours, but talking about how much money you bring into the county is good, but if the county can't use it, it's not so good. You know, if it just sits there in a pot and you can't use it for expenses. So he's making, I think, a pretty valid point here of maybe doing it on a percentage basis. Annually, so if it goes up or down, it's a county.
Yes, and I think that's a great incentive to work hard.
And
I'm all about earning your income, not getting it because you come to work every day.
And then David has a valid point, the revenues are conservative and somewhat arbitrary. We usually go above my revenues, and also, they can't control the economy, but also there's several hotels slated for construction, which will migrate back into Sumner, and there was also a change for the bed and breakfast, so they have some in their favor and some against their favor.
Yeah, if they're saying our revenue stream is determined by a percentage of bed taxes on hotels, and we add 3 hotels.
They're gonna come, well, if we say this is the amount, unless it's over such a percent, then it shrinks down, so that's their max they can get. If it's more than a percent of the revenue, it shrinks.
Yeah,
So
but whoever's determining what the numbers are can
So basically, if we bring in,
Mickey Mouse the
if I put
numbers.
1.2 and they earn 1.4, they still get the 7, whatever you put.
Mhm.
If they come in this year and because they switched or whatever happens and they earn $800,000 and they only get, say, 75%, then suddenly they're not gonna get all their money. And there used to be some language in the resolution a while back.
So are you thinking percentage of actual versus what you budget?
But kind of what I'm looking at is, this is kind of the thought process. They get that as long as it does not exceed a certain percent of revenue brought in. And then, but the thing that's gonna delay their payment on the third quarter, because I won't know actual revenue brought
So
in.
basically, you're setting a floor that they have to make. And after that floor, if they don't hit that floor, this starts going away.
Yeah, it takes out of them.
And I'm just saying, who determines the floor?
Well, I
How
mean,
do they
You guys do
determine-
right now.
Well, right, but David's argument is very fair, right? Like, they can't prove that, like, because I did X, it drove up. Their argument is, because we do these things, it's driving up revenues, and it's a murky connection. Like, it's not like it's not like, say, somebody issuing tags. I issued this many tags, it brought in this much revenue, it's a direct line. That's not what's happening here, but there is clearly some correlation.
Yeah.
So like, we wanna incentivize that?
The attorneys definitely bring people in. We don't-
Yeah, well, my whole thing, just a couple of different examples, like the travel soccer clubs, they're gonna have their tournament regardless if they have a tour.
That's right.
But I believe the tourism board, I mean, they were instrumental in bringing in like the bass fishing
Highland
tournament.
games or
Or
whatever.
whatever, so there definitely stuff that they help bring to this area.
That's what the 27.
But to y'all's point, there's other activities that, they're gonna happen regardless, right? But,
And they're kinda claiming all of it.
well,
Some percentage of all of it. you know?
yeah, I mean,
They're
yeah.
claiming all of it.
Yeah.
The presentation.
Yeah, no, yeah, yes.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
You know.
Because-
But they're marketing, I mean, that's
Because
what they do.
to our point,
You would too.
to the point here, you can't, it's impossible to
Yeah.
distinguish between the two.
And I don't remember, why did they say they wanted a 3% increase?
They did.
I don't know.
Well, it was cost of
It
living.
wasn't-
So, I mean, do we just,
Well, let's change that to 2% and
and have that stipulation in there, I like that.
what's the number, David?
Well, that-
1.2?
It's 71, or 731, 680, 68.
But I mean, what was the
What
projected
number they have to
revenue?
hit?
I've got 1.2 million in for next year's revenue.
Okay.
1.396, almost 1.4 last year. This year, we're probably gonna exceed that before if something doesn't change. My concern is I don't see, since the director's left with the revenue, so your current year estimates, I have 1.2, but I think that's low.
Well, that's fine.
If what they're telling me is correct,
Why-
nothing's changed with the
why don't we-
revenue. Now, if it changes, I'll notice these next couple of months.
What about a difference, maybe similar but different?
A lower percentage, that way.
Well, no, based
You're gonna
on,
give them some upside?
well, but going forward. What was this year's projection?
The 1.2 million, I didn't beat it up, I didn't bring, two reasons, I didn't bring it up any for two reasons. One, concerns on the economy, which is outweighed a little bit by the changes in the law and the new hotels, but I was also concerned about the new director coming in. So I did not, otherwise I would have probably kicked that revenue up.
Okay,
a little
so
bit.
that's,
I didn't.
okay, so 1.2 million this
It's a
year and
conservative
projection.
number, yeah.
Okay, so 731 and whatever is basically 60%. It's 59.78, okay? So my thought is, let's just say 60%. So this year's 1.2, we're giving you 60% of that next year.
Up to 1 point, so if they go over 1.2, they don't get any more.
But if we're gonna
No,
do that, we
what
got.
I'm saying is, if they go 1.8 next year, then all of a sudden, it'll be 60%.
So you're giving them upside?
Well, that's for future.
Yeah, okay.
And you wouldn't have to worry or deal with the fiscal year, third quarter, whatever that he's talking about.
We
It's-
better
it's
know.
I mean,
It's the actuals.
Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. I mean, I don't, it's a little.
Yeah, if we're gonna put them on a penalty reward clause, we need to have a standardization of how we make, how they say they're bringing in the money.
Well, I understand, but today's actuals is 60%, 59.78.
But they're not actual.
No, these are projections.
Well, last year
No,
we
no,
had
no.
21, 22, and it was 1.396 million.
Okay.
This year, estimated for the rest of the year, we only put 1.2 because I'm concerned of the economy a little
Yeah.
bit. I don't think my big concern was actually this director. I don't know, I actually put 1.2. Following our current trend, we'll be above 1.
Why don't we try something simple here? So we have to do 350. They're gonna get that regardless. And then, so they get 350 as their floor, and then it's 60% up to 1.2. So it'll go down, it can go down, but this year, and we can figure out a policy later, but it won't go beyond that. So if it is a blowout year, it's not gonna go beyond that, but it may go down.
Since you're gonna have a hearing, and you can put on your notice for your hearing what you want to, why don't you determine the amount you want today, and then determine the floors and stuff at your hearing?
But that's fine. So
Because you have more
we're
time
leaving,
this
we're
week.
leaving it the way it is. Well, actually, it needs to go to 2%.
We've already changed it.
Oh, you did, okay. So then
All right, let's move on.
Let's go,
At the
let's go.
350, yeah, it's 350.
Sounds good.
I'll
Let's go.
contact them
Let's
and
rock
see
and
how
roll.
they calculate.
All right,
the
what's
numbers.
next? All right, Forward Sumner.
Forward Sumner, let me
I know
catch.
some people wanna kill it. Let's have this discussion and figure this out.
Historically, this has been paid out of interest revenues most years. Interest revenues are significantly higher, but your balance in the hospital funds is significantly lower. So
About
the
$9
question
million.
is, if you do it this year, we're estimating you're gonna bring anywhere from, $50,000 to $80,000 of that's gonna come out of the principal of the hospital fund. We don't think it's all gonna make interest.
What is our hospital fund balance? It was like 456 as of last
We'll
June.
show you right over here, we got the calculator, and estimated.
And plus, we're supposed to have 250 put back for the Comer
We
ball.
already did that.
So it should be close to 700 something.
For the end of this year, it will be, this is our estimates. We're estimating the end of the year is gonna be somewhere around here.
Okay.
If we run Forward Sumner through, based on the interest I've got estimated from the trustees and commissions, we think it'll be somewhere. That's just the best estimate based on the data we have. So you're going to eat some
You're gonna eat into principal a little bit.
principal yield. Because it's so much lower, it can't make the earnings for $100,000. In other words, $813,000 is not gonna earn $100,000 worth of interest. It's much better than the past, and that 21 that I've got in there may or may not be high. Rates are going, they're going up, but they go up and down all the time.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if you look back in the budget, I remember years that we struggled and fought about giving them $25,000. And then 50,000 we thought was crazy, and then 75, and then it went up. But I remember really low years. Now it's come to a point to where we have a percentage of something, and we don't have any direct control. It's just like whatever it is, we take that percentage.
I'm gonna make a motion for Mo.
Here
We're
we
gonna
go.
remove that from our budget, because it was being funded from the interest from the hospital fund, and that money is gone. That's funding source, so.
If you need any help with the history, we've got it right here.
All right.
That's Forward Sumner's history right there.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, and I'm gonna get, well, Mr. Klein's in queue, then I'm in queue. Go
What
ahead.
is that first
Okay.
one, 15,000?
It was
Sorry.
10-11, I believe it was 15,000.
Yes.
15,000.
And those are things we just added in for additional data, it had to be verified, but I'm relatively sure those are correct, and I'm glad into that.
So, and has it always come from interest? It is
No.
not.
No, it
But
was
it
debated
has
on the
for-
floor.
I'd have to look back, it's for quite a while, because when we got that last hospital settlement, I believe it was right after, we actually got the hospital analysis on the revenue sheet, if it's over.
We probably have $15 million in it, was it $15,000 in the hospital
You
fund?
have that
Yeah.
hospital.
It was
fund
pretty
analysis.
Well, yeah, I wasn't saying it's
I can
all
tell you what year we
interest.
started
It was-
that.
No, it is, the 100,000 is all interest before we drained the 9 million last
So
year.
David's,
Yeah.
David's got his hand raised, and I know we suspended the rules. Go ahead.
Okay, I talked to Kim Norfleet an hour ago or so, and because probably of anybody in this county, she deals with Forward Sumner more than anybody. So I asked her what the benefits were, and she said, well, they do process grants for us. I asked her if she could process the grants, and what, she wasn't totally sure that she could, but she did say that there was a huge benefit there. So, that said, I asked her, okay, they feel like she heard what I said when Jimmy was up there, and I said, they really do feel like an invisible locomotive that's just plowing through the county. And she said, really, they get their direction from the city mayors and the county mayor, and they're representing the population. So, all I'm gonna say is, I don't know where I stand on the whole thing, but I may have been personally blaming them for something that is really handled at a more local level between our mayors or the administration of our municipality at large.
Well, municipalities are what is, in my opinion, in the citizens' opinion, is what is the driver for growth that the county can't keep up with, and the county has no way to pay for it. And in these cities, again, the county residents basically don't have representation in that aspect because of the drivers of these things and the connection to the GNRC. And it is all connected as far as creating these mass transit corridors and these village center plans and these walkable, sustainable paths. It's all tied in connection. It's all, and so, you know, and that's been the biggest issue, is that you have cities who just are just doing what they want to do and not taking any consideration of the counties, because they, you know, and it's, when it has in the past and currently presently, when it comes to sustainable growth and development in these plans. And so, I know where I feel on this, you know, and this is one thing, you know, I'm just representing Mo on this one because that's why I'm making
I
the motion.
understand. I'm just saying, let's not shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to grants, because we're shooting the messenger.
Not the people who are planning. Sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
I want to make one comment here. I don't like a lot of, so what Mr. Hyde was hitting on, and I tried to reword it, was that, you know, you get issues with this all over. And this is the thing that should give anybody the heebie-jeebies, is unelected bodies driving a train.
Yep.
And I don't like that aspect of it at all. It's probably, I think, you have made similar comments, Mr. Brown. So this is one of these things that on a principle level, it bothers me, but I also live in the real world. And we were just talking about needing grant writing help and considering that we needed potentially an FTE. We just had that conversation. We know that we have, the growth is one thing. We gotta catch infrastructure up to deal with growth. And I don't wanna leave dollars on the table. So to your point, I don't wanna shoot myself in the foot if we, as opposed to killing something off, let's bend it to our will. And that is what I would like to do. So I will probably, now seeing that growth trajectory on it, I'm definitely, I could make an amendment to cut it, but I don't know that I would want to cut it to zero or remove the line item.
So I think, from the infrastructure standpoint, they're basically a lobbyist for our city and county mayor, right?
Right.
Now, it was interesting, but he ran out of time, so he just went through there real quick, so I didn't internalize. But I think he gave the metrics of this program that he's doing. Was it 12 out of 14?
Yeah,
14
I
out
got
of
2 of them.
12 out of 14.
Or whatever. So it's like,
It's better than the state program.
yeah, so they're, to me,
Workforce.
to me, they're like you said, you asked for metrics, he brought metrics, and there it is. So I have a hard time cutting it down to zero as well. I don't know what the magic number is, but cutting to zero is something I can't support, which is what this motion.
You're looking at workforce development, 12 out of 14 on a county this size.
Well,
Is that
it was for 1 month running.
For 1 month?
I think 1 or 2
But
months.
what's the metrics for a year, say? To me, it just doesn't seem like we're getting a
Well,
lot.
but that's only part of it, right? I mean, we were talking, I'm just talking about the grant writing part of it. Now, I don't know, I'm looking at that growth trajectory and I'm like, well, we started at 15 and now we're at 100.
You're talking, you made a comment about bending something to your will, but the problem is, the citizens have been bent over and against their will is basically what has been happening. And that's what the contention is with the citizens, and with that I hear out there. I mean, and this is a pretty universally.
Well, I don't think it's universal. I think, it depends
Well,
on who you, it may be, it's huge. I get it, but it's not universal.
Kim, what is the cog in the whole process that they do that you can't do?
They have the connections, they have all their corporate partners that are part of their board for the economic development piece, for the workforce development. So they've been the navigator for the workforce cabinet, for the Sumner County workforce cabinet. So it brings all the business entities.
So these are mainly corporate grants or government grants or what?
No, like he was saying, he has a board, executive board. And Mayor Isabel may be able to explain more of who's on that board currently. I'm not familiar, but he was talking about the hospitals. He has different business and industry from Henderson, Gallatin, Portland. So he is talking directly with those employers to see what they need for retention and workforce development. So if they're having trouble filling those jobs, he has, through the workforce cabinet, has developed this program to, for instance, the 6-week program that he was talking about through Fall State for the heavy equipment. They've been able to work with those employers locally to get those connections that when they came out of that 6-week program, 12 of the 14 already have a job lined up.
In Sumner County.
In Sumner County. So it's that connection, relationship that is vital that I necessarily wouldn't have. I mean, I could help, like, I helped them with the 3-star grant that we did through the county mayor's office the last 2 years. I helped write the application for it, but he was the navigator that actually went out in the county, got all those partners together. They meet monthly through the workforce cabinet. And I necessarily wouldn't have that time to devote to that.
That's just that one,
That's
that
just-
one aspect
That
of
one
it.
aspect.
And on the transportation side?
On the transportation side, they've been, like you mentioned,
Have they been, I mean, do you believe that, you know, this is a real question, I've got this question too, do you believe that they've been critical or highly valuable in capturing
I do
dollars?
believe, based off the Improve Act money that we got towards State Route 386, that probably wouldn't have been in there if we hadn't come all together as all of the cities and county as one voice. Because we're known that as a county, even the fact that we have all of these different cities and the county, we're known regionally that when Sumner County comes to the table, we typically have one voice, but the cities and the counties with one voice.
No, I mean, and I guess,
That is.
well, that's, I
Been
mean,
the citizens' voice, in my opinion.
but we can, I mean, we can take that over.
I mean, I'm
I
just-
think we can take it over.
But I think to
You can vote in new mayors then.
Yeah, that's
mean,
right. I mean, let's just take this thing over. I mean, we're doing it now, right? I mean, he stood up there and heard us. Well, anyway, any more
May I
discussion?
say
Yes, sir.
something? Look, and I even hate to speak to this because I always watched these people on city council and different things. They were older people and I think, well, there they go again. They're old and they don't want anything. But that's not the case here. But if you were just envision with me just for a moment, what is happening here with Forward Sumner and anything as far as that's concerned, if you just envision yourself covering yourself with a large piece of plastic to prevent yourself from getting wet in a rainstorm, and that plastic being the protection that we have as citizens of the county through planning, infrastructure to support and all of those things, and we do something like, it has a lot of good aspects, but you do something like 386 development. Now, you've got to realize what you're doing. Even though that may be a good project for those of us that are here now, when you do that, that is opening up the northern part of the county because it's getting us through Gallatin to Portland. People from Portland can come here. So punch a hole in that plastic. And that is not only going to be just that size hole, it's going to be getting bigger. And then when you do any of these other huge developments in the county, residential developments or anything of that sort, punch another hole in that piece of plastic. And soon, realistically, you're being rained on. You have no protection. The planning commission, nothing else, and you have a Rutherford County. Those people over there now are totally out of control. Totally out of control. We are headed that way very fast.
Williamson County, you look at them, they're, talking on their county commissioners, they're, because of their growth, they're looking to be and they're within 5 years, $2 billion in debt.
But so do we, I mean, this is kind of.
But that's,
And
that's
I-
expansion of roadway.
Yeah, and let me
But the
say
roads,
this,
but-
no, wait,
the
this
roads
is an
don't-
extension, Mr. Chairman, let me finish if you will. Several years ago, this is important, several years ago, when I was younger and more dumb, I
Take offense.
went to lunch with Mr. Johnson and another high official in the county. And I was chairman of the commission at that time. And I was presented with an idea of a rail system, and this may have been when Wilson County was getting their rail system, the possibility of us getting a rail system to the heart of Bethpage. Bethpage. I have not said this to anyone else since that time. I know the restaurant we were at, about where we were sitting and everything else. And I thought, this is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. These little farmers out here in Bethpage can shoot down to Nashville on a train in no time and get to their job or whatever. But you know the ulterior motive of that. You know what it is. I don't have to tell you. Opening up the heart of the county, not for us that are here now, but to make a path to make it unbearable development in the very center of the county and then work out, which is what's happening in Cottontown. I'm afraid there's some things that are happening there.
So can I just ask this question? And it's super simple. I get the argument. Nobody here wants growth in the middle of the county. I don't think anybody does. It's not sustainable. I know I don't. But we have X amount of people here now. Like if we were to limit every if we were able to put a moratorium on any development whatsoever in the county, I mean, I might even be willing to say that for a decade, that doesn't matter. So I mean, we still have a certain amount of traffic on the road and a certain amount of growth that we're gonna have to deal with from now to some point in the future that's already baked in. And do we wanna, because we're worried about future growth, not take dollars to deal with stuff that's already been baked in? I just can't. I get where you're going. I don't wanna poke holes in here, but I also don't wanna go back to constituents and say, hey, we had opportunity to make existing traffic patterns better for the people who are already here, but we chose not to do it. I just, because of something that may happen in the future, if we want to stop the growth in the future in the middle of the county, we got lots and lots of tools to do that. I just don't want to cut my nose off to spite my face on it.
I think the citizens think there's a bigger thing on the horizon. They want to set up all these roadways for a reason, and this is the feedback I'm getting from a lot of constituents too, and other people outside of my district, is there's an ulterior motive. Why are we wanting to build all these roads and widen this, widen that? They feel like something's on the horizon, and they just asked me not to support it.
This is why this is contentious. I get it.
One citizen said that they promise you jobs that are gonna pay X number of dollars, and they don't end up paying that X number of dollars. So there's a whole laundry list of stuff that I'm concerned with, which is why I can't support it, because the citizens have.
So, go ahead and then here's
Me, okay. Well, and I have to tell you that I wanted everybody to know the facts that I spoke with Kim. I wasn't particularly a proponent and when Mr. Hyde did his umbrella plastic thing, I was gonna say, well, but who's poking the holes in the plastic? Is it Sumner? Is it Forward Sumner? Or is it our municipal leadership? Now, looking at the leadership of Forward Sumner, literally everybody on this board or part of this group is, by their very nature of their business, pro-growth. We got banks, we got we've got builders, we've got real estate agents, and almost everybody on here stands to benefit greatly. And so in bringing them around to, I don't know that it's possible. I really don't. And so.
Well, what kind of growth are we talking about? Are we talking residential growth or are we talking commercial growth? Because that is a radically different thing.
You know what, we need growth. We just need
commercial growth.
We need control growth, and if Forward Sumner has been in charge of our growth with the assistance of our municipal leadership, we know where we've been. We have to take a different direction to have controlled growth. And if I felt confident that Forward Sumner would be an advocate for the citizens and their desires, I would be fully in favor of funding them. I just don't know that that's possible. And so I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Let's do this, let's take one more, and then to echo, I'll take you, then I think nobody's minds are probably gonna get changed at this point, and we'll take it. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could offer maybe a Solomon-esque cut the baby in half.
How are we gonna do that? 50,000?
Forward Sumner is also connected, I'm with you, residential growth, it's probably too. But I also have a TCAT in Portland. If we're talking about CTE and job training and that kind of thing, maybe if you wanted to give the money to Forward Sumner with the earmark that it goes directly to the TCAT, that kind of accomplishes, I think, everybody's goal. And then you might look at that as a line item going forward, maybe even with some of that ARPA money.
Well,
We cut the 510,000, I think we were talking through that yesterday afternoon. But that TCAT, I mean, that's something that affects people, CTE, on-the-job training, that kind of thing, workforce development.
But
It's just
Forward
an
Sumner doesn't
alternative.
give money to TCAT. I mean,
Or you can just give it directly to TCAT.
that's right, but at Forward Sumner, that $100 doesn't go to TCAT, so you're talking about something that doesn't exist yet.
I understand, well, the TCAT is existing.
But that doesn't go to it.
Yeah.
You're talking about something,
Okay,
you're
okay,
comparing
okay.
apples to oranges
All
right
right,
now.
well, and that's fine, but that may
I'm
be
just saying,
something
you're
we want
introducing
to
a new factor to
consider
the equation.
at some point, yes.
So do you wanna make an amendment, or do you wanna just make that?
Well, I mean, if it's not gonna have an effect,
No,
then I
that's
Not for
a
this
different
event,
thing.
'cause there's
That's
nothing that goes to
that's
that.
not- Yeah, that's,
Doesn't
that would be a
affect
different
TCAT.
thing. I think.
Okay, so then, well, if,
I was gonna.
no,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
And now, I was gonna-
Having heard what David just read, if they were considering to reconstitute their board, what citizens on there, 50-50 with the pro-growth people, I might think about it.
That's a good point.
If there was a voice of the citizen there, and there's not. Well, but.
then we can cut it to
That's-
zero and ask them to come back with
that's-
that. I mean, we've done that in somewhere
So we
else.
could cut it to zero and say, hey, come back.
Come back and
citizens.
say, hey, look, reconstitute your
I
board.
don't think it's gonna happen, but.
Yeah,
Could I say
I would-
one other thing? after
I
you
would
finish?
consider it, but otherwise, no.
Let me answer the question when you first paid it from the hospital fund.
Yeah.
The first time I paid that amount from the hospital fund was back here in 2018, you paid 85,000. Before that, it was paid out of your,
You've got.
Say that again?
before that, it was paid out of your general operating fund, like the 15 and the 50.
Yeah.
But when it went up to like 85, it started getting paid from the interest earnings of the hospital fund because it was for economic development.
What year was that? Cause I remember when we,
2018.
yeah, I remember that change like that. Yeah.
Because the county was very tight that year, and they started.
Yeah, I remember that, and so that's what I,
Mr. Hyde had something.
I appreciate you bringing that up, cause it's, I couldn't remember exactly.
Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
To this point, Mr. Chairman, you spoke to roads, and I'd like to see road improvements also, for those of us that are here. But I've been in Hendersonville since 1967, owned a house in Hendersonville. Now, you know, Sanders Ferry is still 2 lanes. Walton Ferry is still on 2 lanes, and the 2 people sitting there in the back know what I'm talking about. At certain times of the day, I have to add 15 minutes to get out of my peninsula on to Gallatin Road. The people down in my end of the peninsula, and part of Shannon's is part of my peninsula, are totally frustrated because for those of us who really count, we've been here for many years, there's no help. No road improvement.
There won't be, it's not possible now.
And I don't see anything that's helping me.
Go ahead.
So, to me, on the infrastructure piece of it, there's a couple different factors, to consider. One is, building a corridor all the way through, like you described or whatnot, and I understand that's one of their goals, but to your point, to take the existing infrastructure and try to improve traffic, like that to me is, helping the citizens that already live here, right? It's not an effort to increase growth or whatnot. And so, to your point, are we just gonna tell citizens, well, that's too bad, traffic's traffic, and, the people in the past created this, and we're not gonna do anything to fix it? Or, yeah, we are doing things, and we wanna limit the focus on expanding growth to improving the infrastructure right now.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to change from 100 down to 50, cut it in half, 100,000 to 50,000.
I would say
My
that.
motion.
He just made.
I already got a motion on the table.
What's the
Yeah,
amendment?
he's-
Oh, I'm
You're
sorry,
amending it.
He's amending the
So
motion.
I'd like to make an amendment to this motion instead of
I'd
0
like
to
to second it
50,000.
and get in queue and ask you to amend it one other way.
Okay.
Sorry, I think you can do that. You
Okay.
can nest them up like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You can. I'm figuring it out,
Yeah, you
right?
have. You're right.
Here's the deal. Everybody wants to try to improve, I think, existing conditions. Like, I don't think there's anybody, it's like, we understand that there have been problems that have been caused by, not us, by people. That's why we're here, is because nobody would listen, and the citizens have not been represented in some people's opinions, as far as what the cities have done to exacerbate, in my opinion, and cause these problems. And so I understand that we're, in essence, looking at how do we, we're being asked to fix the problems from previous city councils who have not had the foresight and planning. It's just been, I don't really care what happens with traffic, because that has been their attitude, and they've said that. We just don't, it's not our problem, it's the county's problem, and that's, with things when it comes to growth. And so there's the pain point, but then there's also I'll say, going off Mr. Hada saying, is just looking at an entity and looking at a pattern in a history, and the people involved who have not been on the side of that conservative approach have been on the aggressive, and I'll say reckless or irresponsible. And it has benefited a few at the cost of the many, and that has been a pattern. That's a problem. You're dealing with a psychological aspect of no trust versus solving a problem. The problem is we're having to split an entity that you're wanting to say, the citizens don't have trust in this, but you're still want to use them to solve the problem that they feel this entity was involved with the cities to create the problem. And so it is a circular negative hamster wheel that I feel that citizens feel they're on. At least I feel that way, that I'm getting from citizens. And so this is where that's why we're having this debate, and the tension here is because you're looking to solve a problem, but some of us feel that we can't solve it in the current path, and we're looking to divest ourselves from that and go a
let me
different way.
make this amendment, because I agree with you. I would like to amend your amendment to make it contingent on Forward Sumner reconstituting their board with 50% of the board membership being chosen from the electorate by this body. So they would get it, but only if they agree to reconstitute the board.
So 50% of their current board size?
Yeah, so they either double it or they cut some people off of there.
Okay. And the board members would be elected by the county commission?
The board members would be chosen by
Committee
Committee on
on Committees.
committees.
How do we know we can even do something like that?
That's
my.
well, if it's our money.
That's contingent on.
It's
them.
contingent on this. It's our
I
money.
know, I'm just saying.
As Jerry Becker famously said earlier.
Yeah.
Let's
One
find
way to
out.
find out.
It's our money.
I know, it just
Here's
seems like
my
we're trying to
concern
revive a
about
dead
that.
pig here and keep it going. I mean, it just.
Well, I just, because because at the end of the day, we've heard the things we would potentially give up.
Yeah,
you
no, I
know.
mean, it just seems like we're trying to put this thing on life support.
No, what we're trying to do is bring them around to the will of the people.
Right. No, I understand your
we-
intentions, it just, you know.
Question about effective control, you may be effectively making them a component unit of the county in effective control. I don't know, that's something legal might need to look at.
I don't know, like, you talking about 50%?
Well,
Like,
you got the
like
point
maybe
of
we
the
can
majority
add,
of
I'm
the
making
board.
this up, like 2 members.
No, I want more than that. I want.
How many members are currently on there, roughly? I mean, ballparkish?
Well, now put-
Probably 12 to 15, I don't know, John, you might know.
Or does that include mayors?
Yeah, well, John's on it.
So that includes mayors?
Just
Now, how big is the budget? I can't remember.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah, that- I
5,
was
6,
curious
7, 8,
about that.
9,
I
10,
don't know if that is
You know.
enough.
19, 8, 20, they've got 20 on there.
So they need to cut 10 of those.
Could we form a committee
Put 10 more, put 10 different people
without
on.
having
That's really not.
They're all lobbying, and it's all about whose
Oh,
phones are getting
are you-
used to the state.
Look, I don't even have a
who's
second
getting
at this
wined and
point,
dined.
so.
It's a lobby.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna.
You need a second?
Yeah, I need a second.
I got it.
All right, there we go.
You want us
I
to
don't
pull
know, I'm just
their
thinking
application?
All right, we ready to do this? So we're
voting on the amendment.
we're voting on the amendment to the amendment, and this amendment would make yours contingent on reconstituting that
Well,
board.
if he'll agree to it and the seconder agrees, why don't you just gotta merge it? And I guess he doesn't.
I wasn't, you
Yeah,
gotta agree to it.
I'm a little hung up on the 50%, with it being 20.
But we just said reconstitute it. We can make it whatever, however size, we can.
They can keep it 20 and just be 10-10, or they can go
Yeah,
20-20 and have it
we're,
40.
it's a negotiation. You want the money? We've gotta figure out how to make this happen.
And it would be contingent on, like, when would they need to act upon that? 'Cause that's probably,
But, they'd need to agree to it, before
Oh,
budget, and then they
before,
would,
yeah.
we give them 60 days or 90 days.
And we can pick how many of our people pretty quickly.
yeah, that's true.
But what happens if, thinking out loud, I mean, I don't know how long this would last, this may be a dumb question, but another commission comes in, we still have this committee, and we get a bunch of liberals on the commission.
Well,
that are
then
taxing,
that's
spending,
the
and
will
all
of
a
the
sudden we
people.
got-
Yeah.
At
Well,
some point,
they
that's
would
what I
just
want.
bump,
I
they
feel
would
like
bump that up to $1 million.
I feel like we're entering an ocean of potential sharks that are gonna come.
And I would argue, Don, that 20 years ago, people were a lot more motivated to see growth because the county
Right.
was a lot smaller.
Their total budget's 522.
I feel like we're entering.
522.
all right, let's do this. Well, do you accept that, or do we need to take a vote on it?
He wants to just keep his.
We're 19.2% of their budget right now. 19.2% of the budget's represented by that.
All right.
So what was their total?
Well, that's the thing, we cut ourselves off, they're still gonna be operating, and now we have even less control on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
they're
Yeah.
still gonna be, look,
Yeah.
let's get real here. These people got billions of dollars, Facebook's on there,
Yeah.
they can drive that train. It's a matter, they're gonna keep driving that train, it's a matter of, do you want the ability to twist it or not?
We own the tracks, though.
Well, we do for now, unless we're voted out.
Yeah, we do own the track.
Well, okay, I would say if we're gonna do the 50%, then I'll say just keep it at 100. Because, if we go to 50%, it addresses the concern.
Okay.
So,
If
so
If
I'll,
they reconstitute the board.
yeah, so I will change, however you wanna do this, basically it just goes back to your amendment so basically at 100,000 and 50% of the board is selected by the county commission.
That's right. I'm good with it. You're good with that? All right.
And I'll go to that.
Okay. So we're gonna vote on that amendment.
I don't know who seconded mine.
I think,
No, it wasn't me.
did you second it? Oh, I seconded it. Well, then we're good. Oh, yeah, I seconded it and got it too. That's right. All
Yes,
right.
yes.
All right, so let's vote on this. We're getting punchy.
So this is the amendment
This is the amendment to my
to
motion.
his motion.
He used to kill it, and we're saying we
We're not
reconstituted.
voting on yours just yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I want to be straight.
So this is his is 0. Mine is 100 contingent on the 50% border.
Yep. We got it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No,
All right.
You guys probably got your 0 anyway. Because I honestly, for the 100,000.
They're not gonna go.
They're not gonna re-go the board, so.
Well-
Probably all of you has got your.
Then that tells
Well,
us.
then we gotta vote on the main motion.
Now we gotta vote on the main motion, so all in favor of the main motion, but that one is now yours, right? Because you amended it.
No,
Well,
it's my motion.
It's his motion that's been amended.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
so if we were to vote on that, it just confirms yours, right?
Well, yeah, but we need to.
Yeah, all right, all in favor of the amended motion? Aye.
Aye.
Any, all opposed?
No.
no.
All right, same, so it carries. Okay,
The next item that you need to look at, one question, Josh Stubbs made a request to combine 2 positions into one chief.
Who are the no-votes? Just me and Don both times?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I'm okay. I'm okay with him combining those.
Do you
into
guys
one.
want us to, we can change it later, and it's gonna make it go down a little bit, do you want to do that? He's wanting to eliminate 2 positions, make 1 assistant, because he said he's having significant issues with, having time to plan and do things he needs to do.
And
Did you guys want to
he was
approve his
wanting to
request?
use that money though for salaries.
I thought it said, because the thing I thought it said decrease.
Planning services?
Well, it's a decrease of about 35,000, but then he's like, I wouldn't be a good bureaucrat. Do I?
He was going to increase a couple of people.
Correct. Yeah, he was gonna,
Or you
I
guys
think he
just want
wanted
to let
to
him
use
come
that.
back during the, hearings?
Yeah, because I think we need to listen to
Bite him at the hearing.
his fee increase proposals a little bit more in detail.
Invite him in it, that way you can look at his fees and the rationale for the changes in salaries, besides the combination. We talked about the combination.
That's one opinion of this committee, so.
You just want us to invite him back, that'd be the easiest thing. Then we go to school PMO.
So-
yeah, I mean, so it was the proposal to scale him back to MOE and have him come back.
No, it was to
This
leave
is
Josh's
such
as is. Basically, Josh wanted to combine 2 positions.
No, I remember the org
and then-
chart.
And then take the additional 35 or whatever savings and give raises to his employees. So the question is, do you want him to come back and present that again? Do you want to do it, or just let him come back at the appeals and say, no, there's like.
What was your recommendation?
What,
And
just-
and really, it's a rate request, I just mentioned because.
Yeah, I'm fine.
It's a courtesy.
I'm fine with it. I mean, what is,
That, and then I'd like to hear more of his thoughts on the proposals of the impact or
So
the
you just
fee
want us to have him
increases.
sliding back?
yeah, oh, yes, I,
Yeah,
100%.
because we sort of ran out of
Yes,
time there.
yes, invite him back.
Invite him back for the appeals to present the
Yeah.
raises and all the structure.
Yeah,
They kind of talked about it, not in detail.
all right, let's
Next,
keep chugging.
Go to taxes, Bethany.
But his
If we
overall salary
leave, based on the,
at zero.
go down, it's on down, it's on down, it's very, keep going down, it says school department. There, sorry, I told you to. Yeah, go back up. Okay, this is your general purpose school budget last year, based on the projections I provided them based on the tax rate and property taxes, okay?
What is it?
This,
What budget are we looking at?
We're looking at tax rates.
Oh, tax rate.
I'm sorry, this is
'Cause I'm not-
last year,
I'm not
and
done.
this is this year.
Oh.
If you leave the same tax rate, you want to slide down, Bethany. The projection would actually increase and keep going down for a couple of rows. If you leave them with the same tax rate, their actual revenues would pick up around, based on my current projections, about $4.6 million. But, one thing you may want to look at, I was pretty conservative on sales tax, it only affects 2 places, the schools and debt service. So, one thing you may want to look at be, I projected where I think it'll be even somewhat conservative, but you may even want to think about maybe projecting those down a little bit. But the other question is, did you want me to, after looking at that, do you want to
I
actually?
think before we do this, we need to look at, I mean, I get it, but I think before, don't we need to look at capital and then look at debt service first?
We
And then-
can.
Let's do that. and then
Can I
come
ask a
back to it.
question
Oh, go ahead.
before, and I apologize, it's not gonna be a quick question. I don't think, maybe it will, you can tell me to shut up. But the volunteer fire, I know we talked about, we moved them back to 25 or 24s, and I can't find the page they're on right now. if I could find the page.
It's on page 59.
59, okay. So, okay. I'm not volunteering myself for this committee. But I think we need to really look into, I think the Highland Fire Station, we're pretty much almost 100%.
You're almost 100% in Highland.
Yeah.
And
There are
you
two or
ladies,
three
if
of
I'm
them
wrong
now.
from my memory, there was a big upset because Highland brought in that third fire station with the assumption that if they, how many other fire stations out there that you guys are gonna give them that much each? So there was a lot of discussion of not funding that because they just built it. It's kinda like we build it and then you guys will pay so much money. That was
I
kind of
just
the
have
assumption.
I would like for us as a county to really dig in between now and next year's budget cycle, is dig into the volunteer fire department and the funding of it, the structure of it. Cause this,
They did that one.
nearly 100%, that's,
They did that one time, but what happened, the fire departments came back with a proposed schedule which would bring in a lot of additional costs.
well, I'm not talking, well, I don't know who'd be on that committee, but I'm asking a question, and I promise you, I don't know enough about the topic to really have a strong opinion one way or the other. But I would like to understand, because whenever I make a decision, even if I know I'm gonna vote a certain way, I always look pros and cons, just to whatever. Like, I would like to understand the pros and cons of a fire tax, or whatever you wanna call it, right?
I can tell you the biggest.
So, no, I'm not talking about like, right now, but I think we need to look really hard at this whole situation.
But I can tell you the one big con on fire tax is because it's gonna be in the unincorporated area, which does not contain a lot of industrial or commercial. So that tax is gonna completely fund it on residential that is sparsely spread out. So whatever that section, say you go into some of this, like the one you're looking at is very sparse and spread, and you put in a full-time fire department, you're gonna look at a very large tax in certain sections.
And I don't know if it has to fund 100% of it. Like, I don't know how it's all set up. I know Commissioner Rogers mentioned something earlier today about looking at, what was it, soil, what was it you talked about, one of the impact
Yeah, when
fees?
we was in the restroom, can I speak to that?
Yeah.
We were talking about the urinals. I wasn't gonna go that far, but.
Well, if we're gonna be transparent about it, you're gonna find me out, let's just say where it was. Alright, so we was in there talking about, the soil disturbance permits, and if there's soil disturbance permit pulled, that obviously a structure's gonna be going there. So is what we could, or may wanna look at doing, is the amount of money that we're spending to volunteer fire departments, look at that on the average number of soil disturbance permits that are pulled for the year, and raise that up to that amount. That way it's a flow through based on permits and additional structures in the county. I don't know what that figure looks like, don't even know if it's even possible.
You're saying just do a disturbance permit, because we have to be authorized to collect certain revenue, so that'd be a question for Eric.
Right, yeah.
But if it's a sole permit, you increase it up to, I'm sure just a capture.
Yeah, just
It's almost like an impact fee.
For brand new ones, but then the existing ones are.
Well, I mean, they're
How much-
grandfathered, I guess.
You just opened Pandora's box.
I know, that's what I'm saying,
I mean,
a quick question.
Well, it's not a quick question.
I know, that's
So
what-
here's what I'm.
And so I'm
We
not
need to move on.
suggesting-
I was gonna
Yes,
say,
this
this
is not
is not
appropriate.
Let's go on over to capital.
But, so is no one else concerned we're funding it 100% of some of these?
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Jerry, I was
Well,
going to do the research you're talking about anyway, I'm just trying to get.
Unless we want to, just trying to get us back on track here.
From CTAP.
Are we, is there any desire to change any of those numbers? Those specific
To me,
numbers?
I want to cap it at 50% of each fire department.
Oh, no, they
Up
can't
to
bring-
24.
My big thing, and it may be a question for Eric, my concern is we're the primary
49.
I mean, we would be
provider
essentially
of the
killing
revenues for
service
these
at that point.
departments. Is that
I don't
not
know.
increasing their
I don't
liability
know.
if there's some accident out there, they're arguing if they're an extension of us? It actually increases argument that they're an extension
Control
of.
comes liability.
So if they were their primary revenue source, I think that increases your liability significantly.
So I would like to make a motion to limit the amount that we give each fire department to be 49% of their operating budget, up to $24,000.
Well, is there a second on that one?
Okay. Fair enough.
Oh.
There's my second.
Say again. He's coming.
That may be something you want
I mean,
to
you probably got a pretty good idea.
I just think we need to move on from this one for today.
Yeah,
I mean, I get where you're coming from.
I get the issue, but here's the other thing, just so that we're gonna go on the record and move off. Have we ever had a lawsuit on this? Has the county ever, to your knowledge, been named as
Sumner's not,
on the,
when I was at Green.
on a suit?
At Green we were.
So
At Sumner
Sumner
County we
had,
were not, but the former county I was at, we were.
and what was
And
the
one of the
reason?
question was of control, was my
And
opinion.
what was the outcome of that case?
They won because they weren't providing, one of the arguments was my understanding from the attorney side that they were not providing majority of their funding. It was number one, so we weren't in control, and they were a nonprofit donation.
All right.
That was part of the defense,
All
that's
right,
what I was
well,
told.
we've got to march.
I wasn't
on this
directly
one.
involved in the suit, but that's what I was told from
All right.
the time.
Okay, so let's go, is there anything else on this, or can we go to capital?
I think you're ready to go to Capitol.
All right, can we look real quick before we go to capital on where we are on general? And are we where we need to be? I know we're
I
close.
think you're good right now.
We didn't even get there yet.
Yeah, oof.
You're
Oof.
barely there, and I think when you have your hearings, I think what you should do, set a set of hearings, and at that time, we'll revisit.
Yeah, all right, so we're there, but we're there for now.
Is
All right.
is Fort Sumner gone, or is it still on?
It's 100.
Did
It's
you-
still 100?
It's still 100, so if that goes, that's only gonna go up.
So we're still in general fund, right?
Yes.
We need to look at the county buildings for the 2 salary adjustments that was supposed to come out. We haven't addressed that, I don't think yet. have we? We did, you'd already
Yeah.
done that, okay.
So, all right, so let's go to capital.
Let's go to capital projects, and the first adjustment I think we need to do, and I know it's going back to commission for a vote again about the hazardous mitigation, but we need to do, were you in the capital summary bit? We need to do some adjustments to get rid of the hazardous mitigation. That's based on some costs that were transferred in and out just on our budget. If we do the adjustments, then it's actually gonna move it up to this deficit up here. Why did we do that so much smaller? Oh, that was like really big.
Where did we add out of the general?
Well, we moved $1 million out for that fire station.
We're trying to
That's
gain
why
$2
we're
million.
outside. But first thing, can we go ahead and enter the adjustments in with the assumption that we're gonna get rid of the hazardous mitigation? Basically, we're gonna follow the resolution that was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, do
Go ahead.
that. Do that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Based on the revenue, we've been, they're over on that adjustment sheet.
Go ahead.
I know you were looking for it back on it.
So we need to add 38,000 to the revenue, and then move that 65 expense to better the local. I'll go to the appropriation side first. Just go back where you got this next part. It'll work. We'll straighten it up later. We'll get the. Huh? No, I think it's 38,000 some odd dollars. $38,022. Let me take a picture of those numbers and we'll go back and forth. Huh? And you can flip it over and move that.
What was the bottom line we had to have?
We need to go up. We need to lose on capital. I think it's 4, 3.5, 4 we need to cut.
My recommendation on your capital projects line, you need to have a positive number because you're.
We haven't cut that yet.
And I would
Still
probably
got-
recommend
we
about $1
got
million
more to go.
Oh,
plus if possible.
oh.
Yeah, we've got work to do on this.
I'd recommend you have $1 million plus positive on this
Yeah.
particular fund.
And where are we at right now?
you're negative about 2.
Yeah, that's what I
A little
thought.
over 2,
We got
probably
about 3 to go.
When she does this, I'll give you about 2.3 in.
Okay. Yeah, I knew we were starting at about 3 we need to cut.
Yeah. So how much we need? We need
We're at 2, well, after this gets done, we'll be at
Y'all leave that word,
2.3.
that business.
So we still got another million, but.
Then we know we got another 2.3
2
dollars
point-
we need to cut.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we're just halfway there.
We're just going.
Okay, well, that's quick. We've debated a lot of stuff, or minute details for a long time, so.
You change about that, Mark? You gotta change about that. Basically, what we're gonna do is put in some revenue we find out we're getting and reallocate it for the local and the field. So now that takes you, you're negative 2,269,092 based on the estimates, leaves you probably about $1 million positive.
Yeah.
And I'd recommend going down the expenses from top to bottom.
All right, let's go there. What's that 2.8?
Which one are we looking at?
Building improvement.
That is asking for the roof on this building here.
This building here?
Yes.
Oh, we don't need near that much.
What would you,
What do we need?
I think we've got 2 active leaks on this roof. Now, unless we want to go back and repair some of the rusted corrugated metal.
what about the sides with the shingles falling off?
The side what?
The sides with the shingles falling, they're actually falling off. I don't know if you see it the other day, I seen it when I came in.
I haven't seen it.
And John may talk, know more about it because his name is.
We're-
The sides are losing shingles right now. Right? The top's not the issue, it's the sides right now. I don't know which way you go.
We have, I mean,
And that figure's not for the top, it's the
The
side.
sides, that's what I'm.
$2.8 million just for the.
For the shingles?
Because when they installed it in 2003, they did not install it properly. It's a problem that we found in the previous project for installation of the roof.
And some of the
Back
sides
to
are
the
like
structural integrity of
like
the
this
roof.
over in here. And I think maybe this is one that, we just need to get it maybe positive, whatever we need to think these two, and then send it to Jen Office to look at, because one thing, Kim still got the old plans, I think you can see the roof, and it looks really small, but you got all these sidewalls on this building. They didn't do any of those sidewalls. It's only that rubber roof on top of it.
Yeah, I haven't read the report. I read the report on the
And Kim, I think it's
archive,
in that
but,
video, it's got that picture, you know, the roof. Is there any way that they kind of metal on the side, right? Just shingles?
yeah, we could.
That would, basically, somebody went in and they destroyed a membrane that should have not been removed. And we got one or two choices, we need to put it back.
that is correct.
Or leave it alone for Kevin, I think with the shingles fall, maybe the issue on some, or do something different. Does this do the different here, or is that just put back?
This is back to.
Put back is the
I
cheapest.
thought we could do 2.
But things, I think maybe zero this out, and make a note that you want a positive 3.8 or whatever, and that's what my thought is. And making a note that way they can send it to Gen Ops to explore it, they will be back.
All right.
How does everybody think about that?
Well,
And make a note there.
Yeah. But okay, let's keep going, but
If you get an
I don't
email-
wanna assume that, we need to, we
Send it
need
to
to
Gen
go
Ops.
way underneath.
Well, no, I mean, we need to bring the police, send it back to Gen Ops, just have a lot of money at the end.
Yeah,
The deal with the
that's what we
project.
now, instead of saying, we can't assume that we just took off the 2.8, because now we're good, we need to still cut 2.
And this was the discussion earlier.
Why don't you just keep that back on there? I mean, why are we taking it off?
Yeah,
I leave it on.
yeah, go ahead and leave
I
it.
don't,
It's kind of the same discussion I have, once you give an appropriation, you really need to go to Gen Ops before appropriations, if that's the order, if you want to go to Gen Ops.
I mean, but where did that 2.8 come from? And somebody put that in the budget. I mean,
It was a request, and they always request what they think they need from departments, so. My,
Previous architect had made a presentation, once we found the issues, the previous architect made a presentation at that time to the General Operations Committee with 2 different options. One, to go back with the original Loadmaster system, which is a proprietary system. Or the second option was to go back with a non-proprietary system, but it was, you had a larger cost at the
That's
beginning.
been in for a while, right? That's not just added just now.
and this is why I think.
But the committee at that time decided not to pursue the repair, instead just as we had leaks on the
Band-Aid it.
shingle.
Okay, so
portion,
we're just
repair.
adding this new right
We're
here.
And
just
here-
adding it.
Okay.
And here's my concern, and this is what I talked to Kim. For some reason, I don't know if it'll save money or there's an issue with the loadmaster, so this is much cheaper, but that's why I think an engineer and gen ops need to be involved, because this is my thought, we spend 2.8 on this thing. And you fix it, but if you're pushing it down the road, because that membrane, what if every time you nail to it, it damages it? You may be worth the additional means for your future generation to remove that and just get rid of the problem now. But I don't know if that's the case. So I think you need to get a positive balance and defend it over there with the architects and gen ops and determine why they removed the loadmaster. Why, was it just their error, or is there a problem long-term with the loadmaster problem?
Yeah, this is bigger than me. so-
And they said they didn't think it was probably met codes anymore structurally sound, so that's why I stopped, but they never did. I don't think we ever got a report of the loadmasters, positives and negatives, and if it's a good product, unless Kim will remember something different I
They
do.
just, the architects had heard from from the report that it was due to the structural integrity, that loadmaster system was part of the original design.
So
So
something
they
needs-
recommended going forward, we needed to address it. But at
Can
that
we
budget
put-
year, I think budget was tight, so they just didn't have the funds.
Can we put that,
time.
what do we have left in ARPA?
We can go look at that in a minute, but my thought is to take out everything you can and leave a positive number, then
That's
make a
fine.
list here and send it all to
Yeah.
gen ops to
Yeah,
explore,
that's-
because you don't wanna spend 2.8 and then future generation has to do it again.
No, I get it.
You'd rather spend the
All
money
right,
now. and
so
get rid of it.
let's keep chugging, but know that we need to cut another two. I mean, I'm not counting that.
Okay.
Remod, that's the trustees discussion right there. That's where she's
That's
going
where
to
she
move those
wants
counters
the
back.
counters. Like,
You're looking to move, I gotta trim 2 million to keep us from going negative, so.
I mean, let's do the big stuff first. Let's
Okay.
go with, let
some small
877.
Go on down, there's some big, 877 is, for heat and air, that's what Mr. Isabel sent, because
Yeah,
of all
we-
the heat and air concerns. Because of the Freon and.
Well, yeah, and that's something that we've talked about, doing it in sections, not
Right.
one lump sum.
Leaving money in there as they break down.
Is this the amount that we
places.
wanna leave in?
No.
Okay,
no,
what's
it's
the amount
way-
that we wanna leave in?
How many years you wanna do it?
I'd say no more than 100.
Okay, so do it over 8 years?
That's 13 years. Remember, it bumped up with the addition of the jails.
Okay, so,
So this is for just this year we're talking about?
yes.
100 ought to do it.
Is that, do you agree?
You've got a 13-year plan to replace them.
So do 120? Bring it down to 10-year plan?
Well, I mean, $20,000 is $20,000, that's,
Oh, we'll try 100, see, I mean, we gotta do what we're gonna do.
yeah.
Let's try 100, and if we can get where we need to get, then we'll come back to it and add 20.
This one's the assessor
I don't think
requesting a
we need
vehicle for
this
next year.
year, but
I'd take that
you
one
never
off.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, 100,000 miles. We
Is that
turned
what he
a
said he
plan-
had?
Take it off.
Kick it off.
Zero.
Yes, yes.
Which department was that?
The
Yes,
assessor.
tax assessor. Sorry.
Property
We all drive cars with 100.
We're the tax assessors.
Yeah. We all drive cars with.
These are some kind of, the hardware's okay, the Meraki's a concern because it's a 3-year thing, but, I mean, we're probably fine, we'll
This
do
one's
it.
one he said we can take to 50.
50, yeah, 50 per, I tell you.
Yep, shouldn't do, go 50.
Get the wheel right.
Yep, go 50.
Let's leave
What was
Meraki
that?
now, and we'll look at that at the hearings.
That was to change, he
That's
said
the
he
3
was
years
way
of Rocky
high, remember, he said it
software.
was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm kind of questionable
go
with
to
capitalized.
50, in fact,
Yeah.
I mean, I think
He said maybe 30.
Maybe even 30.
But yeah, let's leave it at 50.
50's fine, but let's keep going.
What
here.
about the archives roof?
That's gonna be down less than $50,000, so I think we can pull 400 out.
Are we gonna do it this year or next year? I know there's still talk about it.
in charge.
We should be able to get it done.
Do we know is that reason, is that a,
Well, I gave John a proposal for 42.
okay, okay, I got it. All right, so 50 on that one, I remember
Is
that.
that for the roof and the rails?
Yeah, roof and rails removed.
Everything.
What will
So,
go?
okay, so it's still.
So that's the sheriff's vehicles. I mean,
I did.
He's asking for 20 cars is what he told
give
us.
him 10.
You said,
Just times .5. We know that's what it is.
I said the other for 5 too.
Yeah.
So there's.
Okay, we just got rid of a lot of money, where are we at?
Yeah.
You're probably pretty close. Law enforcement,
Okay.
15 body cams, they probably do need that.
Yeah, keep body cams.
Those are liability.
Yeah, it's expensive. for body
That's that software you took from general fund that they're gonna have reoccurring as a one-time.
cams. Yeah, that's okay.
About 40,000. Disinfectant and animal control, they never had that before, but they said they need it.
What changed from $0 to $40,000?
It's a new system they need, I think they need it, is what they say, but that may be another when you,
Animal control.
you take it out, they can come back here and as long as we tell them they can come back here and
I mean, they're gonna come back anyway. I mean, half it, go 20. You know,
I think it's probably an all or
Is it
nothing.
an all or nothing thing?
I would think.
I would think so. It's the whole-
What was the footnote? What was the note?
It's the disinfectant system for the animal control. I think it's probably an all or nothing.
Where are we at? Where are we at?
Click on the summary. About 2.3, but you took out some big items, so you probably want to be a couple million more, but we can go down through there, because you still got the other EMS building in there.
Yeah, let's go to those EMS buildings, those are
You got the
big.
disinfectant, they have this every year, they have to buy equipment like stoves and dryers, there's
That's
continuous.
fine, I mean, it's, well, wait,
The
okay, I mean,
70
it's
is
kind
for
of going
EMA
up.
vehicle,
Is that for,
he wants a crew cab truck, what do you
No.
say?
that's 0.
Leave that one. EMS equipment, I think this is the power call, I can't tell you. That's the cardiac monitor, the other power.
That one we needed, I mean, I don't think we can, that one.
This is actually for that building.
Which one?
This, one of the other, one's over in ARPA, and then there's one here.
The ones in the ARPA are the only ones where I think we're really thinking about,
This year.
right? We're gonna,
This year.
this one we can't do.
I think you guys.
That was the one up at White House, right? That-
Well, they asked, they had like, they wanted to do 2 out of 3, but I think you guys kind of voted to do 1 this year.
That's Shackle Island, isn't
No, that's not
No.
Shackle Island.
I think you got one over in ARPA, but you didn't decide which one, I think you.
Yeah, I think we were, no, we did. It was the one, that we're gonna be putting on Highway Department.
What's more?
What's
What?
Number 7.
Yeah, number
Is
7.
there- I think it's
Replacement
White
2
House.
million. Oh, this,
The little tab up there.
replacement station 7, construction, new White House.
Yeah, cause that was, and we're not doing the one in White House.
This is for command vehicles, these aren't ambulances, these are for
Nope.
trucks. that are-
I mean,
Take those.
Those can go.
Yep,
Those are for ambulances.
That, ambulances stay.
yeah.
They're on a schedule. This, I believe, is, Parks and Rec, and I don't know, I don't
What
have
is
a-
that for?
John.
John.
What is it?
250 for Parks and Rec, and it's way more than before.
Is that ADA?
No.
No.
Is that the vet
No, that was just,
park over?
money that he had put in there from the Parks Master Plan.
Why don't we just-
Continue doing that.
Zero.
Why don't we just do the
Zero.
previous?
Well, I think you guys decided not to do the Parks Master Plan, didn't they?
Oh, did we? Okay. then-
Not officially, no.
Then 0.
Upkeep
What
of
about
the
that- what about the request for that?
facility.
Oh, the existing
Veterans
one, which
Park.
one?
Whether, does this include
Veterans
the?
Park?
No.
No, that's 30, right?
Okay,
What was
Is it
that,
upkeep or
250?
repair, or what is it? I don't know.
all right.
I'm
Can't
not
pay
good.
maintenance.
Well,
I mean, we can vote.
Well, we got some
Repair,
dissent.
maintenance damages, no.
Okay, hey, time out, we've got some dissent on this one. So,
Well, if I heard, does it mean 97 then?
You said existing facilities, you might want to ask, Kim, what
Yeah.
facilities would it cover? and what's
Put
that?
100 or 97.
Just put the same.
97's fine, that's
Kim
what I'm
can
gonna
tell you
say,
what
but I mean,
facilities it covers.
But it didn't exist at all 2 years ago.
it was came out of the Parks and Recreation Board. They did a analysis of what all the surrounding counties put towards Parks and Recreation, and ours was 0. So they came to a figure based on the Parks Master Plan of 97,000 last year, based off of those priorities that needed to be completed in the short term.
What do you mean by completed? Like greenways?
No, it's actual, like, this year we're making improvements to the Humley cabin at the Bledsoe Lake Historical Park.
Okay, so existing historical
It's
sites,
existing
like
historical
physical
sites.
structure.
It's all historical sites.
Or just physical structure.
Now,
Yeah, all
but
ones
but
that
did
are,
did that 97 potentially do like the majority of what they had identified? Just maybe,
That was the short-term goals. There is the 3 to 5 and then the 5 to 7.
is any of that going to the Bridal House?
There is a sign that's going to Bridal House.
A sign? How much is that gonna cost?
I don't have the bid back yet. We're in the process of design.
Okay.
I just don't know why it went from 0 to 97
Well,
to
yeah.
250, so
well, yeah.
I'd rather keep it at 97.
97, well, then that's fine, I think we're all comfortable with that, 97.
You wanna put 97 again this year?
Right now.
Yeah.
Cause I gotta research that one.
Okay, I'll keep going down, that is,
Highway equipment.
yeah, that's from that penny that was promised to highway, it was put over here versus the highway fund, because since it was promised to always be used for vehicles and capital, it was put over here versus the highway fund. So, and that was, like the last time property taxes were raised, they said a penny of it would be used for the highway fund instead of putting in for the highways. Instead of putting in the highway fund, they put it over here to guarantee it was bought for like vehicles and equipment that wasn't
Okay.
used for employees or anything of that nature. And that's at 1 penny minus the trustees commission.
Okay. Do anybody have any issue with that explanation?
No.
I think we're good.
And that's pretty much it. Let's go see
That's where we're at.
do a capital project. So right there, if you wanna keep at least $1 million, that's gonna give you what, about 3.2 to deal with all those other where we priorities.
Take out the 2, because that's 4.2, so, because I want to take out at least 2 for the roof.
Right, so that'll leave you at
Like 2.2.
2.2 minus $1 million, so leave you 1.2 for other things during the year. That's probably about
I
it.
think we're okay.
So you're saying,
And you can revisit it at the hearings.
So hold on. You're saying, what is our total? And you're just talking about, that's just one line item, but as far as the pennies allocated right now
Okay, let's go.
to capital projects funds, only 3 pennies, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's more than that. Let's go over there and I can
How
explain.
many pennies how many pennies do we have allocated?
And there was last year, remember, the schools used to get $3 million out of here. They took.
Well, we used to have like $6 million, but then we just gave them half of our capital projects.
Right, but they used to
last year.
get, they got about $3 million last year. The commission allocated more pennies over to the school department and took it out of this fund.
I know, we do just cut our
Which
capital
put us
projects in
back
half.
to here. Everything else was permanent in that capital projects funds except for 10.08 cents, which was completing one school, I think was a renovation, was it White House? Yeah, White House Intermediate. And that was at 10, so it's moved back into your debt service, so that leaves, so
I
that
know,
leaves
but there was a
6
permanent capital project.
right there it is, 6.65%. That's what's in there.
So let's look at this. So how much do we tap totally right now on that?
6.65
On
cents.
debt service.
Debt service
25
has
cents.
25.23,
So
general has 2.31 less.
So
than
we
last year.
went from
General.
double. We almost got back up to where we were on debt service.
Yeah, we moved this.
In one fell swoop.
I know, but our capital projects got cut in half last year.
I know.
And we added 10 cents to general since last year.
No, that's not general, that's, capital, that's, debt service.
I know, I'm just talking about general.
No,
I'll
general
go by our
fund is
bet-
actually general's down to.
From last year?
2.31.
No, we were talking in budget, we were talking about because of the ARPA stuff, and I pointed this out. Our
Here's-
penny
Here,
application.
here's.
Maybe it's 2 years from now.
Now,
2 years
here's
ago,
where
I'm
we're at,
thinking
we're 5.81.
I'm probably thinking 2 years ago. then.
There was 5.8, there was 0.5831 cents last year. 2 cents was that one-time fire department allocation that went back to debt service. The 386 matched 2.5 million of it came from property tax, which is 0.0385.
7 million came from the
7 million small,
hospital.
major 10, and then this 10.8 was temporarily allocated to capital projects from debt. So all this money went back into debt service, and then to cover COVID too, and 0.0154 for the Justice Center budget, 86 cents. So you net 2.3, well, almost 2.5 cents less than last year. After all those changes and everybody else.
Where were we at 2 years ago? 2 years ago back with debt service.
Go back, hit my revenue sheet, Bethany, and then hit property tax data. There's one that says property tax data. This is your property
I
tax
do.
rate, so let's get.
I'm gonna put it.
Yeah, these guys.
Which year are we looking at going down right here? This is where, for debt service, for how many years ago? You were 33.36.
We're not quite there, but.
That was 2 years ago.
But you, right now, based on your current debt load, the 0.2523 is more than adequate.
Yeah.
Much more than adequate. And one thing, it reminds me you didn't discuss, that the general fund is, there was some discussion about maybe allocating a penny.
I wanted to look at this first and make sure we were good before.
Well, here's where you need to look at, help you out, to look at the debt service that's in their budget. And, what it'll show you is, go to debt service, the summary sheet. And we can show you how much the reserves change. Okay, go down here. You're picking up or a little over $4 million based on current revenue estimates. And we may want to decrease sales tax a little bit, so that go down some. But if you look, you were at 26, 31, 23 when you did all the stuff last year, you're back up to 27. With your decreased, debt load, not issuing any new debt, based on the arbitrage rules, 13 months of interest and principal, you're gonna need to keep that number or less in there from now on. Because your actual debt is.
No, I understand, we're actually going to have to reduce.
Right,
the debt
because you're
service
5 million less,
at
you're
some
10
point.
million less, you're 13 months.
But that's what we want to do.
Now, if you have a foreseeable need and you document it, yes, you could put it
Well,
out, we were gonna refund or something.
Right, but that additional revenue, we will be able, this was what we talked about, this
Move
is
to
the
capital.
strategic thing, we'll be able to move it toward capital, or we'll be able to move it toward operations and, salary in a sustainable way for the next 4 years.
And if you can move it towards capital, and you get back more into the mode of pay as you go and get less and less
That's right.
borrowing. As much
That's
as
what we
possible.
wanna do.
So basically, if you, say you, next year decide of that $10 million dropping off, you decide to put 4 more in capital and allocate, hey, we're gonna have $4 million spent each year, and you did that for those 4 years, you'd have $16 million worth of cash for a big project.
Yep.
So,
Something big could be
So-
paid cash.
So here's one thing I wanted, and I'm gonna bring this up now. This is one thing I wanna do that's not going, and this is the one I mentioned earlier. It's not gonna add to MOE, taking 1 penny away from debt service is not going to, we are not gonna be able to call in any debt early. It's not going to make any, it's not material. I think you mentioned to me that we can't, you can't do this, you can't do anything for more than 1 year at a time, but I would like to start with 1 year, and for the next 4 years, allocate 1 penny to give to the city of Hendersonville to work on the Exit 8 project with clawback provisions, such that if it is not allocated in 1 year, spent in 3, on that project only, then it comes back. That's what I would like to propose.
So is Hendersonville gonna start on it now or in 4 years?
No, they start on it now.
Okay.
It starts, it's a rolling thing.
So my question is, we move the penny and then I can put an appropriation to Hendersonville for the amount of the project, or do you want us to move the penny and then assign the amount of the penny each year and pay it all to them when they start? And which way would you want us to represent that? You can do it either way,
I
though.
think
We can
the-
assign funds here. and hold it
So-
for
The latter.
So we'll
Second.
assign it in there.
So we have one in a second, and we can
I
talk
think you
through it.
wanted this.
So, Hendersonville doesn't even pay their bills to us. They owe us money on the reappraisal, and they're refusing to pay us. I understand what we're trying to do, but I've got a problem. You know, I have a problem justifying this for people in Westmoreland or Millersville, because this is no benefit to them. I mean, it's just, I understand, you know, it's a catch-22 trying to partner with cities and we're trying to fix things, but it's like, I'm looking at Hendersonville, and I mean, they can't even pay their own obligations. I mean, it's
Well,
not,
I'm gonna, go ahead. Well, let me respond to that real quick, because I actually called Mayor Clary about this, because I said, I guarantee you, the first thing that's gonna come up is that. And he said, look, this was his argument, and this is what he said, I have a fiduciary duty to the city to make the best deal for the city.
And we-
And we do.
we have a fiduciary.
That's correct.
To the citizens of Sumner
Yeah,
County.
you're right.
That are
So-
outside of Hendersonville.
I get it.
They got that
So
same
he
fiduciary
said,
responsibility.
I'm willing to pay this, I just want a ruling from the state. And I'm just holding until I get a ruling from the state. That's what he said. Now, as to the other part about, you know, whether this, you know, is a city project or, you know, benefits the city of Hendersonville, it benefits everybody on the southern corridor of Sumner County. We're spending $10 million of ARPA money for water in the northern part of the county. I mean, if we want to, you know, I get it. I totally get it. If I were up in Westmoreland, I probably, if I'm representing those folks, I may argue against that too. I get it, you know.
Well, it's, the question, on the water lines, it's questionable, is that really going towards benefiting people who are in the rural areas of Palmist, or is it going towards boosting our infrastructure for the cities like Portland to just grow and go hog wild like Gallatin
I
has?
know it's not going to Hendersonville. So.
I know, but I don't know, I have my doubts it's actually going to what Mo intended in his own mission to do. So it was one of those catch-22s. We get in a position, oh, you're gonna vote against water lines, and you're for water lines. That's exactly what that was. That was just a political move last year. And, you know, it was a catch-22.
Right, but I think the point is true. I mean, a lot of money we spend at the county level is spent where, you know, segments of the county
I get it.
residents don't benefit directly from it.
I get it.
And so, you know, this is an example that does benefit a large portion of our biggest city.
And everybody east of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it benefits Gallatin too.
So what happens if we
Anybody
just
who
do,
drives through it.
I mean, if I cut you off. go
No,
ahead.
no, I mean, I just think, I mean, but my initial thought is, I understand what you're saying, but we need to make sure we understand that, you know, my constituents, which are in probably, I guess, the smallest geographical area footprint, you know, we spend a lot of money in this county that has nothing to do with them. So, you know, I understand the argument, but I don't necessarily think it's a strong one.
But this is, you're talking about, this is fixing an exit off of the bypass. I mean, this is not flow for anybody driving from the south end of county to the north end county. It's people getting off an
Well,
exit.
it's fixing east-west flow.
I mean, if we do nothing
And it's
here-
actually, and it's fixing north-south flow as well, going up Saundersville Ferry, 100%. I drive that every day. It 100% fixes north-south.
But what
go
if
ahead.
we
He's
don't
had his
act
hands
on
up.
this as a county? I mean, what is Hendersonville,
I'll
what is their
talk about that.
backup
Here, go
plan?
ahead.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, or maybe it was only about a year ago, Hendersonville abandoned the road that goes adjacent to the Rogers Group. They hadn't repaved it for 20 years. And then they said, Gallatin, you can have it, and
Gallatin asked for it.
Right,
'Cause
okay.
I dug into that one a
Okay.
lot.
But didn't we end up contributing $30,000 because
Well,
Hendersonville didn't want to pay
so
a
a
dime?
quick what happened was Gallatin approached Hendersonville saying, hey, we want to take over this piece. So, and Hendersonville said, yeah, that's fine. Gallatin then came back and after they signed the agreement, or maybe before they signed the agreement, but verbally they had, and then they came and said, well, we want to hold off until a development happens so the developer can help on the cost. And so at that point in time, Hendersonville was like, well, you know, we already had a verbal agreement, it's Gallatin's, and the Gallatin's like, well, hey, we didn't have a legal contract, and then meanwhile, the county's like, you know, caught in the middle type of thing, and everyone was just pointing fingers at everybody.
Well, here's
This was-
the reality of this.
But anyway,
Go ahead,
but
and then you go ahead.
finish your point though.
Okay,
That one was a little
so
muddy.
that on top of the fact that they still owe us a ton of money that they are refusing to pay, I use that exit all the time. I don't really see the huge problem that it is. I realize it's crossing a railroad track. I realize it splits to the right till stop 30 and then it crosses over as well. I don't think it's an ideal engineering feat.
Well, the TIF from Indian Lake was supposed to pay for that tunnel, and somebody royally screwed the
100%,
pooch.
100%.
In Hendersonville, and the developers who did that thing, there was some shady
mean,
stuff that happened.
Look.
And lost money that was supposed to be done at that time. And
100%.
and that's the
But
problem.
here's
We're
where
having
I'm-
to
here's
fix
where
that.
I'm-
I
here's where I'm gonna-
understand.
Here's where I'm gonna get at. This is what I'm gonna say. At any point, and my understanding on this is that the state can shut that intersection down. Because it was not, to your point, that was not meant to be a permanent solution. And so, and this was not, like I said, we didn't cause this problem. We did not cause the problem. There's a lot of problems we didn't cause in this budget, in a lot of budgets. We didn't cause the ARPA going toward, people's salaries. We didn't cause, the issues around the volunteer fire department, several others, right? But we have an opportunity to stack hands with the city in a small way, and I'll tell you about the numbers in a second, with the city and the state and solve a problem. And to do it in a way that's not going to, it's not gonna raise any taxes, it's not gonna raise maintenance of effort, it's not gonna to stop any of our strategic goals, not one. Now, here's the numbers. $28 million is what this thing costs now, and it's only gonna go up. $28 million is the estimate. Forward Sumner found, and Jamie found a 1-to-1 match. At my last understanding, a 1-to-1 match, grant match for this. So City of Hendersonville needs to come up with $14 million. So right now, Mayor Clary is looking internally to what he can put toward this and is looking externally. And so this would be $3 million toward that total of 14 million that he needs in order to get this done. And look, it's stacking hands, it's not our problem, we don't have to solve it, we didn't cause it, we could step away and say, hey, you know, we didn't do it, or we can come in and do something positive. And it, again, it's not, we did a lot of work here to make sure that we can get to this point and get us back on track fiscally. If we were to reallocate that penny toward, salaries, it would be minimal, it would be almost nothing. And it would add, to maintenance of effort. This is something that we don't have to do that, and it's also not gonna really hurt that service. So anyway, I said my piece, and
So we're looking at $3 million of.
over 4 years.
But you see, the struggle I have with this whole thing is
And we have to do it year
we're
over
sitting here all day saying, and I'm probably gonna be hated by a county attorney, because I'm telling, I don't want him having his cost of living. So here we're nitpicking, taking money from here, and we're saying the sheriff can't have X number of vehicles, we're gonna ax that, we're axing this and that. We gotta worry about the county. I mean, the sheriff, law enforcement asks for stuff that they need. And the sheriff, we just got done listening to all the departments, the sheriff needed, what was it, how many vehicles again, was it 10, was it 20?
They're
So-
gonna need 20 vehicles.
Then how many are we only gonna give them?
We gave them 10.
So 10, so I mean, here in my mind, I'm saying, well, you know, I'm gonna cut, as a commissioner, I'm voting and agreeing to cut 10 vehicles from our law enforcement to protect our citizens in the counties, and I represent part of an area which is out of the city limits, so they depend on sheriff vehicles. You got towns like Westmoreland, Portland, that could probably use extra patrol, extra vehicles, whatnot. The problem I have is I cannot come to support this when we're cutting law enforcement stuff, EMS, whatever we're doing to slice the budget. In good conscience, I can't do that to people. Because that's saying, well, because they screwed up years ago, the previous mayor and the previous BOMA, well, now we're coming back to the county and you're gonna have to cut this, this, and this out of your budget to make it work for us. I just can't.
Well, they didn't say that. I
No,
mean,
no, I'm not
nobody-
saying you
nobody
said
did
that, but I'm just saying that's the narrative I can see people. I'm not saying you're saying that. but
We
that's
need
what people-
ambulances, we need ambulance stations that we're not funding, but it's just like, you know, and a penny's worth $675 this year, next year's gonna be worth probably $700,000. Pennies have gone up basically $25,000 a year since I've been here, but the worth is in 2018. I think it's like, man, it might have been $450,000 it was worth in 18, so I mean, it's gone up substantially.
I mean, no one wants to live what if, but what if like.
But there's a lot you can do with a penny every
I get
year.
it.
I just,
I-
as
look,
far as
I
like,
get it.
I know, I'm just, and you bring up a good point, it's like, it's that, this is a hard discussion because you understand you're trying to provide a public good for easing problems that have been caused when it comes to traffic and congestion versus like, here we are cutting a public good such as our sheriff's department and our ambulance service. And it's just, you know, we're just having to balance those discussions. I get it. I mean, this is a crappy
It's like,
discussion. I mean, it's
I
just a-
feel like
it
we're
is what it is.
punishing
It
them
is.
for
It's
just
not- it's not-
Hendersonville's
look,
ground.
I hate this.
No, no, you're
I
right.
hate this
Like,
decision.
You're right. I mean,
One
I mean,
question
hey,
about.
just in my district, where my district resides is 100% the city. So like everywhere, all this money, like on the highway department, in theory, I could argue that I get zero representative.
Matt, there's another
I mean,
question, too.
so, but I don't, because I understand it's for the greater good, so.
yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Like,
And I'm not knocking
like
you.
the
I mean,
sheriff,
you have
the
good
sheriff's
intentions.
department
I mean-
doesn't, no, I mean, I love the sheriff's department. It doesn't service our,
Yeah.
I mean,
But think of it, $3
It's
million,
about- it's about
what
good.
could we do? Now, we came up with school security.
Yeah, but we're
I've
a
had,
county
you
commission,
know,
not a city council.
I
I
mean-
mean, that's, I mean, we're representing county. Our fiduciary responsibility for the
well,
most
I
part
argue
is.
that this is a county corridor because it connects two
Yeah.
different cities.
I'm not
and-
necessarily arguing against that.
Yeah.
I
But
understand.
what could we do with school, what could we do with $3 million to
Well, right
better
now-
secure our schools? That's the,
Well,
these
right
are
now, we're
questions
putting it
people
into
are
debt
gonna
service.
ask.
So then
No,
that's
I
the
know,
case,
but when they
then that's
see a
the case,
dollar
then we
amount-
need to go back and put, if that's the
Yeah,
argument, we need to go.
We can pull pennies
We
out
can
of debt
pull pennies
service.
out of debt
and do
service.
some stuff.
And I'm not
Question about
arguing
the
your
But-
intentions, I
Next year's
understand, but-
reappraisal. So if we're gonna, when we're talking about the penny, I think you mean a penny and then equivalent to a penny next year, because as we're talking, your reappraisal, your property tax rate's gonna drop.
Yeah.
Probably 30% of that penny was 130% of what it is this year, so you're probably talking about a penny and equivalent to a penny.
Yeah, and that's why we do this year over year.
So it'd be like
0.75 or something like that. That is a fair point, but
Before
the
it gets
goal
in
was to
minutes.
get to 3 million over the course of 4 years. But, I mean, listen, none of this is personal. This is just about how do we, I was trying to say this to the AP reporter yesterday, this is just about how do we best allocate resources to the county. And like, I get it, if you're in the northern part of the county, you say, hey, this doesn't affect me that much. And, like, well, sheriff's cars don't affect me that much. But, it's just about balancing your, represent, or who you represent.
Well, I mean, I'll
with
bring
the-
you a
with the
quick
greater good.
example, I don't mean to, but we just got done listening to The Hollows, which is in county, it's not in city. And I don't live my life of what if, but I've got residents in Cross Point subdivision that have contacted me, have made it to the planning commission, and they're concerned, no matter how much they try to people convince them that flooding will never be a problem, et cetera, the back of my mind is, what if they're wrong? I mean, and it's not because they're intentionally wrong, but what if the engineers were wrong, and those residents in 10, 15 years are calling whoever is sitting up here and saying, well, my property's being flooded out because something went wrong with the engineering or the construction. These are examples like, we didn't expect that big trial, to fund the money. I remember you and I were talking about that one night. These are things we've got to, I mean, what if we have some more of these things come up? And, we're putting the money there.
What are they planning on doing? Because I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking.
They're gonna tunnel underneath. I mean, I've seen a plan, I don't have it.
Tunnel underneath the railroad?
Tunnel underneath.
Yeah.
And then
They're
come
gonna go
back
about a
up and
half
meet
mile
me.
west and tunnel underneath
Because
it.
here's the railroad right
Yeah,
here.
they're gonna go back here and tunnel through here and then tie it.
Would you like?
Anyway, I don't know, go ahead, I don't know that we're gonna change
Would you
anybody.
like to put this on, because you're gonna have to have your hearings,
That's true.
and we're gonna have a call meeting. When you do the call meeting, you could do it, if it's a special call, we gotta put the reason, so it can be the same thing to discuss any
Yeah,
and
let's
all,
do
including the
that.
hearings, and then on there, and we'll have to make sure Eric is not, but we could actually add on there, this discussion as part of it too.
Yeah, that way we have the plan in front of us, we can.
Yeah, that would
Let's
help.
do that.
That would help
Let's
a
do
And then I'll
that.
give you more time to talk, and another question really
But you're not
quick.
changing anything right now? You're
Not changing
Moving a
anything.
penny right
No,
now?
we're
No,
not doing
nothing right
anything.
now until you go.
Okay.
And the other
So we don't
question
need
really
to-
quick, you
No, we
moved
don't
all
need
the
to
other
vote.
employees down to, was it 2%?
Right now?
Do you wanna move highways down to 2%
It was
too?
already moved.
Was it already moved down to, okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we included highway then,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
okay.
Okay.
Cause it was in a different fund, and then,
And
the only thing I can think of is, cause we need to move some expense, and, current year projections, like the trial, we need to move amount expended versus requested next year and some of that
I've
stuff.
already done that.
Okay, but all that stuff's been done too, so, the big one you've got left is the discussion on the MOU.
Okay.
Because the original
Let's do that.
instruction was to give them the same dollars as last year. If you give them the same dollars as last year, you're gonna have to decrease their tax, their number of pennies. The question is that what your intent was? And let's go back.
Say that again. If we give them the same number,
Go back.
what?
If we give them the same rate, they will get 4 million more.
And that is if I
So we
don't.
will increase.
Go taxes.
Go to tax. He'll explain it.
Go down to where we
So we
were
may
at.
actually decrease the sales tax.
Like the,
Right.
the split of the rate.
Right, here we go. Okay, this is what was in the 2023 budget for the schools, provided by This is based on the amount per penny and all these other ones in your other funds, and this one the school provides, I don't have it yet, we'll have to ask them for it. For next year, if you look, my estimate is conservatively for sales tax is 2.1 million. And it only affects this fund and debt service, which is also positive. So because of economic concerns, you may want to look about, number one, decreasing this, because 2/3 goes here, 1/3 to debt service. So it's not going to, it's going to be 1/3 impact your debt service, which is 4 million positive. But then after that, the big discussion is so my question is, first, do you want to decrease sales tax projections because of worries about the economy? And numbers.
I mean, I think we should.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's come in here and,
I mean, that may actually.
yeah, let's kind of show them what we think we're gonna bring in and stuff. This year's estimates on sales tax bringing in total for the schools, actually what I think we're gonna bring in this year is, go quick here, Beth, 31,607. does that say currently going down, but what we have budgeted, is 31,607. So I basically budgeted flat what I think they're gonna bring in this year. But we all looked at that trend where you started out as, go in your current year collections, that's what I was gonna point to. We haven't had, we don't have any new data. Go to the current year property tax projections, we'll show them. It's black, it's like really dark, if I can find it, it's another black. Yeah, there it is, revenue monitoring. Okay, go down to this thing to where it says sales tax, and I'll show them this year's, just keep going down, it's sales tax, it's on down here. And this is to show why there is a concern about sales tax. Keep on going down, it's got its own sheet, and each one of these two, you see the one that says sales tax. Where are we looking at that? Sales tax, mixed earnings. It's on down a little bit further. Okay, here you go, local option, this is my concern. This is current year collections, okay? This is prior year collections, this is differences, okay? Same month, month over month. We started out as 114% of the same month, 112, 109, 108. Back to 110, it's kind of an outlier. 104, 100. So if you look at the patterns, went down 2%, went down what? Almost 7, went down another 1.
3.
Were any of those trends present in previous year over year?
There's trends all over the place, but this is a very finite trend, and we have the same next month, so it could actually.
Well, I mean, I see what you're being concerned. Like previous years
It's a
over years was
month.
the same.
No, it's a month over month comparison, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
This is the same month last year,
I know that,
so you'd expect.
but what about the previous year?
We'll have to we'll go hit sales tax.
Do you understand what I'm asking?
Let's go hit sales
I
tax.
remember the motel tax also was high in November also.
But it should be both in November. Oh, well, I know what you're saying, it's a good month for reporting. And there's some things about timing of reporting, but my concern is you're seeing a trend where your year over year is shrinking.
I mean, we're
It's
in
not bad. It's going to the data.
historical inflation and also recession, so I mean, it's gonna get worse as the year.
Is it always sort of been in this trend?
No. That's what I'm saying, this is not a usual trend.
What is it
Sales
usually?
tax is that way, Beth, I can tell you.
They probably haven't seen this since 2008. They probably haven't seen this since
It'll say
2008.
sales tax on it, it'll,
Oh, my
business
goodness.
litigation, keep moving, general fund, sales tax. It's plus sheet, let's go on, that's some notes I've got, keep going down. I think if you go to the left, they can kind of get the gist of what these do, keep going over. Just go over this way, Beth. Do you have a mouse? Go back to where you're at and go down, because we want to see, there's like a column over here that shows change. Here you go, this is month over month the year before. Notice how erratic it is, and go over here, go right here, Beth, and click and see if we can freeze the panes button and see what months and years these are. Go one back over and freeze the panes, and then we'll show those changes. Okay, just view freeze pane right there. Freeze that pane. Okay, now go over this way, and I can show you month over month. This, go back in here, Beth. Go back over here. Oh, sorry.
Golly, boss.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm just saying, this is kind of your pattern, and you can notice something here. This is 07, 08, this is your year when your recession hit. And then what it does, if you click on that one, Beth, and again, show you the formula. That's the year, that's the month over month, from that same month, the same time last year. There's downward patterns, very sporadic, but you don't see this sudden consistent down, see there, 107, 103, there's not a real consistency.
I mean, yeah,
And year over year, we're showing like 106 per year, 107 per year. 105, so you got kind of consistency. 106, that's 16, 106, 106, there's the same, 106 again, pretty consistent, 108, really good year. 123, that's when they did all the sales tax changes and stuff. What year is that? It's probably not been updated. Yes, hit F2. Could hit Control C and copy right there.
I don't care either way.
And this is not updated because it's on the machine yet, we don't.
I knew.
Now you're at 180, and now you're coming into this year, and you've got more recent stuff over there, but you're gonna be really back with that.
That's already done, like, we already did.
Now, this is countywide versus what we actually give to the city and
No,
county.
we're on
So
the
these
projection
distributions won't
for no
follow the
taxes.
same, it kind of shows
Years,
the path.
for years.
We usually don't see it.
As long as we don't go stupid.
Unless you're
We
doing
may
it.
be able to make it, I mean.
But the problem with it, what we're gonna say.
You can say I'm
Actually,
sure.
we'll do something about budget, but it's not over projections even.
That's why he's doing it.
What's your recommendation?
That's right. No, that's right.
Mine is right now, I think, two things. The schools are gonna ask me for the revenue numbers. I think number
You're
one,
almost there.
you're gonna have a hearing. And I think when we come back at the hearing, you guys, we will have another month of sales tax. I think if the sales
I'm
tax
taking off now.
goes below last year, you need to actually consider budgeting the sales tax down.
96%.
Be able to break it down to 93, 96, I'm sorry, 96, 7% of the prior year, actually significantly down from actual. Because based on 97, 98, and some of it's been skewed because of the sales tax changes, because of the online sales tax, the COVID, growth, all those things, but right now, we're seeing a very distinct pattern. We started out 114%, and that percentage has been shrinking every month over month. Except for one, which was no very good. And they've had a big turnover that skewed us. There was a lot of hotel motel tax too.
So where are we at right now? Sorry,
My recommendation is what I was talking to, before we do, you give any amounts of projections to the school department, I think we need to see that next month's of sales tax, and if it actually goes,
well, we don't need to yet, right, because.
they're gonna ask me for it, they don't have to have a budget tested in one.
I definitely think we're gonna.
I'm not sure what they're building the budget on. I think you need to shrink sales tax, and then you need to think about what
Do
you
we need,
want.
do we need another month, or can we just shrink it?
We can shrink it, but
I think we've got enough.
Go ahead.
I think we shrink.
We can give them a preliminary number at least.
I think we shrink it.
let's go back to, what?
Our MOE is 126.
I think you
Why don't
drop it
just for
to,
now, tell them 126, tell them maintenance of effort.
Maintenance of effort.
Take the 126, and then the budget committee will determine how it's distributed at the next meeting.
Yeah, just start from there.
We'll
Make,
start there.
say, that's the assumption. I mean, and that was the assumption we put out
Right.
during the.
Well, what you guys originally told me was maintenance of effort, which means the exact same dollars as last year.
Yeah.
If we bring the sales tax even down, with the growth, there's still gonna be a lot of growth
Well, and we
unless you
can-
decrease their number of pennies.
We can, well, right, and we can talk through that, but I mean, just as, for them to have something to work off of maintenance of effort.
So how does,
So when I come back with the point for the hearing, I'll come back in and I'll ratchet down the sales tax to probably not, if it keeps going below prior year, we'll probably look at something like 97% of prior year.
I mean.
But I'll have to pull that
what
number
percentage their local funding?
out of their budget. Look on my iDrive, we can show them real quick from last year. With the GPS, we can show you. I know I think their BP is more than that by itself.
And I'm, not trying to be harsh here, but
60
like,
million
they got a
GDP.
big bump at the, some of this is like evening out. I mean, there was a big.
$43 million.
increase over last
I'm just
year.
making sure I understand what you guys are calling MOE before I give the schools anything.
What?
Because as your representative, I'll be giving them the numbers.
And I'm not saying this is a final decision, what I'm saying is as a, I mean, this, I'm not dictating here, I'm like, as a planning factor, because that's all this is. Plan maintenance of
The
effort
general
because of the sales,
from last year.
because of the drop in sales revenue, and if it comes out higher, then we can,
It's
we can discuss that. So we'll look at another month. I mean,
Oh, I'm in
is
there,
there an issue with that one?
It's getting late.
I'd like to understand what that might mean for cost of living for their employees.
I don't know, that'd be a question for the schools.
I mean, they need to come back with that budget.
Cost of
Well, that's what
raises.
so my question is, how much of our, is the local funding
That's what we'll
percentage of theirs?
show
I
you.
mean, you got-
I mean, ballpark, you know?
It's trying to.
2,200 people get $4,000
Thing is, right now,
raises.
there's probably the start of the backup for our, database, and it's really killing this line because this line's 300 days, so right now she's trying to pull stuff off the server. So it'll take just a second, we actually have it on the K drive, and we'll pull it up.
You can get the ballpark percentage?
What was the number over here for our, what was it, 126-ish? And I think their total GP was about, I think I'd hate to say for sure. If I can show you.
Is the state on the BEP, they redid a formula this year, right?
They were going to on that.
I think it was expected to,
Give them money.
Well, that's the state giving
that's what I'm saying.
that. Yeah,
Right,
the
you-
state,
you guys
that
got-
doesn't affect our, this is,
You guys got two requirements, you have to
affect-
give them at least as much revenue as last year, and meet the percentage of the match, which, in education, I understanding from, CTAS, we're far above the match, same thing I understood earlier, even with the new formulas.
some other BEP.
BP.
Oh, we're funding $60 million over the BEP.
Right, even with the new formulas, we're understanding.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we're
Was what we were
60 million
talking
over BEP.
Well,
as of
the
last
question,
year.
yeah, last year, but they changed the formula, was it this year or next year? I think it's this year.
I think it's this year.
It's coming this year.
And our understanding was we were planning, this is their budget. You provide that amount locally, that amount, and then there's a small amount down in state that's passes through, but it's not very large.
126.
So you provide the 26, so you're providing about 26.4 out of revenues of 298,061. So you're providing what, a little bit less than about 40% maybe? This is a guesstimate, 46%. This is where BP would reside. If you roll down, Beth, it will give them that kind of report, just a little bit slower. There you go. Stay going flat. That's the same thing you see over there, that's the local that you guys provide. And then your big number in state, what makes slow that's stuff they collect, and then there's BP number there, big number right there.
Dave, what is BEP?
Basic education program.
It's calculation, I think it's called BEP.
So the bad thing with this is, the guinea pig for teachers is gonna be $50,000 now. It took me 15 years to get $50,000 when I was a teacher. But they're gonna start all teachers
You're
at
old.
50,000. Like I say,
He pointed out the day that I'm old, he's talking about when they start seniors, I'm like, I'm not far from there.
David, what you have to remember is, and everybody here on the committee, what the state gives does directly affect us critically. Because the state gives amount of money by formulas such as so many elementary teachers, so many junior high teachers, so many high school teachers, principals, librarians, and so forth. And every person, whether it's a lead teacher, an extra guidance counselor here, or an extra assistant principal here, or an extra 200 teachers that are above the formula that has been given by the state, that is paid entirely by the county. And it always was a very troubling thing for us in the system when the state was, quote, being generous in giving a 4% salary increase, because that 4% was for several hundred people in the school system, not covered above and beyond the formula, that was not covered at all by the amount of money being sent
and
by the
this,
state.
is going back to the dollars being tied to the student. And,
So there's,
they're not counting the amount of students that are really there. They're just looking at a base number in each class. And that's the problem. We gotta fund whatever's there, and they're just funding that many.
the more classrooms you got, the more issues.
But
More schools, more classrooms, more issues because of the all.
I dare say there are 200 or 300, maybe more now, teachers above what the formula will say. And if you calculate that, say $50,000 times 300 teachers, you can see what you might be looking at. That's why the personnel is so huge there.
Do you wanna talk about a call meeting for your hearings and the?
Yeah, let's,
'Cause you still got some loose ends.
I think what we're doing here, just to tie this one off, I mean, just, unless we wanna do something else, cause it's just for what we're doing now is they need some estimate, just start at,
Well, I think right now to wait till your hearing, I'll get the sales tax number and then.
okay, that works.
Right now, I think the committee wants me to tell them to start with the MOE number and the committee will make their determination at the next hearing.
Is it 7 days or 10 days that we need?
Do we have to publish it before?
Yeah, 10, so,
The thing is, we have to have the schools, and they don't have to have it to us by June 1, so you can't do your publication. So probably right now, there's a couple questions, and some of them probably for Eric. like one on the notices, and if we have a call meeting, how detailed do we have to be in the notice to make sure we capture everything you guys need to talk to? Because you need to talk about fund balances, change in estimates and all the hearings, the sales tax, the Henderson deal. How broad can they put it for a call?
I don't think you know what all you wanna talk about yet, so if you wanna just give me a list of what it is you wanna talk about, I'll try to get it all.
Can we call it any and all budget items related to 2023-24 budget and budget hearings for any changes made
I
on these
think it's a
things?
little too over.
Yeah, well, we'll give you a list. I mean, I think we've got a specific.
I can tailor something in there.
And how soon do you need it? Because it has to be a notice of what, 7 days?
We're shooting for 5 around here.
5 now?
But I mean.
5 business or 5
The
actual?
first is June and the Thursday, so I mean, you're looking at, I mean, we do a meeting the first week of June, so between the 5th and the 9th.
You shoot it over to me, if it's in the morning, I can have it posted that day wherever it needs to be.
Actually, you know, I'm gonna be out of town.
Contingent upon,
I wouldn't be here.
You probably would-
approval.
You probably want to do yours before you get the school stuff, because you have to deal with this, so.
Yeah,
So
so
I thought you
what
may
we'll
want to do
do-
with like maybe the.
What we'll do
Oh,
is
so we can do
we'll
ours,
get you a
you're saying
list
we're not doing
of
Another
this.
hearing, have your
details
hearings,
that
fix your
we- I
budget.
mean, it's
ready.
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
I mean, one is an
What about
overall
the week
review
after
and
that?
4 or 5, major things to include.
After the commission meeting on the
To include an
15th?
updated sales tax estimate.
What are you looking at the week of the 15th?
And then we'll
Or
go.
the week of the
Every day
27th?
Tuesday morning.
Or May or
So
June?
if we get it before the 12th, we're good.
May?
That was,
What-
he
what
was
you
waiting
guys
on
need
that
to-
ARPA, and I told him we're probably not gonna get on the.
For the
So
joint
he
meeting,
knows.
you'll need to do it.
Yeah, I told him we weren't gonna be able to make a decision on
No.
it. I already did, I said,
Okay.
Has to be
We're gonna
done.
make it.
Hold it on the
I
12th.
was thinking.
So when you have to have
First week of
first.
June, I'm
Super
off.
low. So I said, we're almost certainly not gonna make a call.
First week of June.
All right, so,
So we need to have a meeting sometime before the 11th. Is that correct? Ken?
Depends on Saturday.
So it'd be, what's
The ninth?
Thursday or Friday? What's the Thursday before that?
8.
8. So they've got June 1st, the school says they just have to give it to us and it'll be already together. So you could do your meeting, joint meeting, let the schools know anytime after the 1st, and probably need to do it before the 8th if you're gonna make the normal commission meeting just for the
yeah.
publication, because we gotta publish it.
Well, the commission meeting's on June 26th, so you have like
Yeah.
literally 4 weeks.
Yes, but we have to give it to the newspaper by Tuesday morning to be
Okay.
published on that Thursday. So to do that, we
You'd have to have
have
it.
it ready by June
And we
13th.
gotta put it
Gotcha.
in, and then we gotta look at their graph, because the paper's been known to send them back
So
with errors. with them.
so you-
Right, yeah.
A lot of
That's
errors.
how
We
we
can,
can-
but that's, look, we can, so what date are we targeting here then?
I would say your best date, because if the
June 8th?
schools has it June 1st, they've gotta have it to you. I would target somewhere June 5th, 6th, or 7th.
Is this a, and you're
What's the
saying,
7th, is that?
this is for a,
Well, 7th is
Wednesday?
Wednesday, I don't wanna do Wednesday, because I think a lot of people go to church.
And what, this is,
Maybe 5th or 6th or 8th.
Let's do the 8th.
5th you can't do.
I won't
Is
be-
this a
I'll be
nighttime?
gone the whole week, so you just gotta do that one.
Okay, is that a nighttime meeting?
Yes.
I can't make it the eighth.
I'll be gone that week.
The whole week?
I'm on vacation that week.
I can
Get
make
to
the
eighth.
sixth.
You guys could always move your commission meeting to the 26th if you wanted
The commission
to.
meeting.
Me, yeah, I'm just going.
Oh, it's with us.
Yeah.
Business family, so I'm going the
Federal
5th
holiday.
through the 10th.
That's why we're-
Can we do the, you said we can do the 6th?
I don't know.
The 6th is a Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you do the 6th?
I'm out of town the entire week,
Okay.
from the 5th
Can
to
you
the
do the
9th.
6th?
Yeah.
Can you do the 6th?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why can't we do Friday the 2nd? I can do
I
that.
can do Friday the
I'm
second.
gonna do Friday the
You could
2nd.
do, you could.
We're talking about night meeting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let the school know they want Friday
Friday
the
night.
2nd to do the meeting.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I mean,
I
this is Friday night right now.
My big question is, if you're gonna have a meeting on June 2nd, they're not required to have to us to June 1st.
we won't
That
have
means
any.
first time you're gonna see us June 2nd, and it won't be able to be on a
I
website or
think,
anything.
I feel like the 6th, well, you're.
It's up to you, and don't worry about me, because I'm not here that
Yeah,
whole week.
I feel like the
It's just
6th is the
unfortunate.
one.
I mean, you tell me, I'm flexible.
So.
Is there a school board meeting on the 6th or something like that? Like, they're typically Tuesday nights.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but,
but I
No,
don't
there's
know.
I
not.
mean,
I don't
Eric,
know.
after we get it in their hands, if they have it in their hands, they've gotta have it on the website within 48 hours.
That would
Is that
be
correct?
responsive
Yeah, let's
tonight.
shoot.
You've gotta have
I
what?
mean, at some point, something.
The attachments like that.
Board
school
education meetings
So
on the
they all
13th.
have
we-
15 or 16.
Oh, then I'll get
Try to
mixed.
have
That's
it
good.
It is.
Okay,
Tuesday.
I mean, that's gonna be.
that's good then.
That's a lot of time between those.
I know, we did it the week before, the week after.
Well,
They won't get it in time anymore.
why was the
This is-
13th?
Board of Education meeting's on the 13th.
Oh,
But they have to have it in the paper by the 13th.
So what, so we have a
Can you
normal,
guys June 2nd?
we have a normal budget on
On the
12.
12th, why don't we just do it the 12th?
Let's just do
Let's
12.
do the-
It's a normal budget
Yeah,
meeting.
let's do it Monday the 12th.
It's gonna be hard to publish it in time for the commission meeting with the paper, because we gotta get it together for the schools if there's no issues.
Oh, I see.
Then we gotta
That
send
was
it to the
that's
paper,
why.
the paper,
They always send it back and
and
it's
several
never,
times, and then we gotta have it
Let's-
to them, there's.
So the 12th is too late to get into the paper the next morning, the 13th.
But the June 2nd, the
But
Friday
But
works.
we don't
But
have
can you not
time,
get it there by the
because
20th?
then we're only getting it the first.
Well, they need 10 days in the publication,
We
so they
have
wouldn't
to
publish
have
it till the
to
15th.
them by Tuesday morning to get it in the paper
By the
on
15th.
Thursday, and it has to be published 10 days
Days.
before
So,
the commission.
so
So
the
13th.
6th, yeah, the 13th is too late. The second would work, but we won't have any time to review anything from the schools. I feel like the 6th is gonna be our best shot.
June 6th.
June 6th. Let's
Again, it is their study
D-Day.
session, so whatever that
Right.
means, whatever that's worth.
Do you
The
think
school board study
5
session is
p.m.?
the 6th.
You think 5 p.m. or later?
School board ask you,
That's-
ask me any questions.
That's what I'm saying. If we want people from the schools to be
Yeah,
here,
that's
the
just-
6th is not a good night.
Oh, okay.
It's not?
Because
It's-
they
They
have
have
a study
that's
session.
their study
Oh,
session.
And the 8th.
That's the easiest
What about
kind of
the
meeting
There-
to
there is
cancel.
no-
David won't be here and I won't be here, so you're
Seventh,
missing.
seventh.
7th, a lot of people go to.
7th's a Wednesday, 8th's a Thursday.
Oh.
As far as I know, I'm
A lot of
good either
people
I'm
one.
thinking, do you wanna do 8th?
Does one do the 8th?
You'll be missing 2 minutes. I'll be gone all
You'll be
week, and
missing
he
2
won't be here
people
on the
on
8th,
the
so you're just missing, you're 2
What
people
about
down.
the
It's up to you
7th?
guys, I mean, you still have a quorum.
7th?
7th works for me.
7th.
I mean, can we do it,
Bob,
I
you do
mean,
the
we're always
7th?
concerned with
He's
church, I
missing-
mean, do we do a daytime?
So we're always gonna be missing 2 people.
So we're always gonna, we're just gonna
I'm
have to
trying
do
to,
it.
I'm trying to avoid missing 2 people.
But you're not gonna do that if you do it that week.
What's the day? Is there any?
Or not on the, I
Is
guess.
there any?
What about Monday the
When-
5th?
What about the
What
Monday's education meeting?
Yeah, what?
What about the 9th?
Monday the 5th.
Why don't you make the education committee meeting a joint education?
I'm fine with the
Is that
I
the
can
5th?
make the
I can
9th.
do the 9th.
Now, here's-
Same
here's-
time.
See if you guys are okay with
That's
this.
Friday.
It's gonna be a joint budget and education. Why don't you take the education meeting you got already and just join it up on the 5th?
That'd be the best thing.
The
Okay.
5th.
All right,
Just
so
get
we joined it up on
republish it
the
as
5th.
a joint and throw that on the agenda first thing.
And it's
the
just gonna
school
be a-
budget on your agenda and join.
And
the
then
budget.
if needed, we can go ahead and call that following Monday as a joint meeting too, right?
You just have to postpone the budget.
So,
because it's-
what
So
does
let's
that
do
do the
that.
other-
We'll
What
do it
what
on-
happens
I
with
mean,
As
my
long as you
gen
publish,
ops
we're
meeting?
okay for that.
Just go ahead and publish the 5th and the 12th.
We'll publish it the 5th, yeah, the 5th. As long as you guys have an intent to improve it, you can make small changes. There just has to be. an
Well, here's the
intent
thing
to
though,
improve
is
it.
Gen Ops.
Well,
is
yeah,
gonna be
there's
like,
other committee
we're
meetings.
gonna-
And that's all contingent to the budget.
Oh, yeah, but
As long as
that's
we
too
got
close
that.
to 13, yeah.
We're gonna crush
I know,
Gen
but
Ops.
budget's the 12th.
Gen Ops can always move their meeting back an hour.
Or do you
It's
wanna
gonna
move
be
it
more
into-
than an hour.
Gen Ops can always meet in another,
You wanna meet another day?
half our committees.
I mean, we can, Gen Ops, we can do another
Yeah,
day. if
Gen Ops can do Tuesday, they can
We
just move the
could
day
do-
after.
we could
wanna-
do
you
Tuesday.
wanna do
Okay.
Tuesday?
Let's do the 5th.
So we do the 5th, Gen Ops is gonna
So the
bump to the
6th,
6th.
let Gen Ops move, you'll just
All
need
right.
to change your
What time are we
regular schedule.
shooting for?
That's what we shoot for. What
I
time
won't be
is,
here.
what time is education? Because we're just joining up with education.
Hey, Bob, what time is education? 6?
All right, 6 o'clock.
And that's why all the buildings
6
fall
o'clock.
apart.
6 o'clock here.
So the 5th.
We got roof
So the
leaks.
5th.
They didn't.
5th at 6.
And we have to move Gen Ops.
Actually, that's a good point. Do we wanna, hey, do we wanna move this to the chambers?
You better.
Tuesday, like, it would be.
Let's do it in the chambers.
And I'm saying,
Just-
you
you'll
make
need to
it
go to
joint,
chambers.
we'll,
We'll make it
budget
work.
will, finance will do the,
Yep.
agenda for.
Yeah, you need to do it in the chambers.
We're doing that. Okay, so we have our date. We know we need to close up. June 5th at 6.
No, that's the joint.
Is there anything else?
No, that's the joint education. When do you wanna have your hearing to work on your budget?
Yeah, we gotta do that like in the next couple of weeks or.
Yeah, do you wanna look at that day really quickly, because the day is what?
Today's the 5th, so do you wanna
Oh, I
do
thought
it?
we were gonna try to.
And you gotta have at least a 5-day notice, and I'd recommend more, cause we need to get to Eric's office.
Yeah, I'm gone all next.
So the week, no, the week of the 15th of the May, the 15th is our full commission meeting. Can you guys do it on either the 16th, 17th, 18th, or 19th? That we can make for us to meet as a budget committee and finish this up.
Yeah.
When's our normal budget?
That's Monday, June the 12th. But we need to do this for ourselves.
What about the
Have we
16th?
already had May's budget? Well, we got,
Next
it's Monday.
budget's Monday.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
no,
is
no.
Monday.
There's no way to get that.
We're not gonna get that done in time. That's the problem.
That's what the issue, we had noticed in all these.
So why don't you do it the week of the 15th after the full commission, because
Do we have, Yeah, let's do that. So how about, what is it, that
Can you
next-
redo it to 16?
16.
Yeah, let's do it the
That night?
16th.
Yeah.
June,
So
Yeah,
May 16th.
May 16th?
May 16th,
We're
Tuesday
doing two
night.
things. May 16th for
Our special call
our
budget.
special call just for the budget, and then for the schools,
No, it is a special call.
well.
It's special called budget.
It's a budget
Yeah, that's
hearing.
correct.
May
But
16th.
you said not special
And then the
call.
joint
punch.
one
But
is
that'll only
the fifth.
be, budget, it won't be.
And then we're doing a joint one with you on the 5th.
What time are you
Okay.
starting on the
Okay,
16th?
so you're not expecting anybody from the Board of Education,
On the,
16th?
not on the 16th, no.
What, because we're just finishing
just
up our
finishing
stuff.
What's the
What
earliest
time? What time?
Do you guys want to start at 6 o'clock or you want to start?
What's the earliest you guys can start, because you give you more time?
I could probably do 5. Can
I
I
could
I
do
have a potential conflict, but I don't.
I could do
don't
5.
know.
5 o'clock.
Could the rest of you do 5?
Let's do 5:30.
5:30.
Give you an extra
Okay.
30 minutes, 5:30.
so that's
Well,
16th
it'd
at
be that night,
5:30.
But,
5:30.
Okay.
yeah, I did.
Because it's hard for me to get
If
here
my
at 5.
conflict hits, I won't be available any that night,
All right.
but that's fine.
Okay.
I think we're pretty close.
We're close.
Yeah.
Instead of 16.
Okay,
Would the 18th be better for Jerry's conflict and everybody else?
well, would the
Well, I
18th be better?
mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think
Everybody else?
the
Nope.
Tuesday and Thursday are probably both potential conflicts. I don't know.
And then Wednesday's church and Monday's the commission and
Probably just want to
Friday's.
keep it.
Then let's just keep
Usually
it.
a
Let's
rough
just
day.
keep it.
Tuesday the 16th.
Keep it 16.
What
Well,
time
Friday's
is the
graduations, nobody want to go.
Room 112?
Yes,
Is
room
6
112.
o'clock.
6 o'clock.
That's it. One more motion.
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? David's opposed. He wants to be here all night.
Okay.
Can you push stop on that? Don.
Good.
Let's just pull a few things upstairs and get out of here.